we all? I am so goddamn tired. Oh my god. That's okay, we'll get through this. Where are you guys gonna go? Alright, I have no idea what's going on today. At all. Oop, no. I want that one, there we go. I don't know what I'm... So, okay, I probably should clarify. So I'm talking to this Playing with Fire guy. In like 5 minutes, I think. I have no idea about what. At all. So this will be strange. And potentially painful. So, we will see. At least I hope it won't be anything like last night. That was unreal. I was saying this to Ask Yourself earlier, because he's the one who sort of facilitated the conversation with Playing with Fire. I was going to not take the conversation, but he insisted. He's a stand-up guy. But like the thing with Hawes is that it's complete gibberish. Like what he says is unintelligible, but it's high effort nonsense. It took him a lot of work to find the stuff that he's sourcing and to use it in the way that he's doing, because he's not using it in a completely non-technical way. He's just using it in a completely motivated way. So, I guess we need to go to the hangar. Just gonna check in Discord and see what's going on. Oh, there we go. Brilliant. Alright. We want to call here. I just want to make my video essays. This stuff is taking so much time. Oh, oh god, we're doing StreamYard. Okay. Alright. Okie dokie. It's like 100k sub channel he's using StreamYard. I don't understand. Why not? It's not letting me use... Hang on, let's see here. Oh, here we go. OBS virtual camera. Boom, boom. There we go. Can I get high definition? I don't think my camera's high definition. There we go. Alright. I'll have to make myself a little bit bigger, though, for his benefit, I suppose.
Fuck. Looks like I'm hot. Something. Hey, what's up?
Hey. Oh, I see. So yeah, we gotta fix that.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
How are you?
Perfect. I'm doing pretty good, man. But yeah. Do you have anything you want to discuss before I go live?
Not... Well, we are live, first of all, just a heads up. I'm live a bit earlier, so just so you're aware.
Oh. All right. All good.
Yeah, no, not really. I'm... What are we talking about again? I'm completely drawing a blank here.
Quite a few things. So I went through about 2/3 of the video, your prep video that you made. You made some interesting claims about me that I want to explore.
Oh,
but
great.
if you're live, let me go live on my end, and then we can talk a little bit more before we get into like the heart of it.
Sure.
All right, cool.
Brilliant.
All right, what up, guys? We are live. So we got the President Sunday debate. This is going to be a juicy one. So you guys are in for a treat. President Sunday, let's start off with this. Can you give a quick intro for anyone who's not familiar with you, like kind of like who you are and what you do?
Uh, okay, sure. I guess I do a variety of stuff. I think the main draw of my channel is I like to apply like my education in political science to a bunch of stuff, and I do a lot of critiques of political channels that I think are doing a bad job. I do some video essays. Yeah, it's kind of all over the map.
Cool. Is it fair to say that politically you're definitely on the left side?
I think it's fairly safe to say, yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's quickly, I'm going to share the backstory of how this whole thing came to be. Basically, President Sunday made a video about Nasser Erdad, i.e. Kyla. I made a comment on that video, and then he responded to that comment, and then we set up a debate. So that was basically the gist of it. We have a mutual friend, ask yourself. So that's kind of how it came to be.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
the comment was who cares, and then I said somebody who doesn't identify as a discount Andrew Tate or something like that. Yeah.
that's what kicked it off. So listen, I was watching your preparation video that you did, or at least 2/3 of it. There was one claim that you kept making over and over and over again. So I want to start off by exploring that, and then let's explore the Andrew Tate thing.
Sure.
The claim is that I'm miserable, and you made that claim a bunch of times. So why do you think I'm miserable?
Why do I think you're miserable? I don't know. Like, I guess one thing that stuck out, there was this one portion of a conversation, and I didn't follow any of these through very far. They're just kind of painful. No offense to you. It's just not my jam at all. You were debating with someone about something, and you were talking about statistics about black women being less attractive or something. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, okay, this is a person who they have relationships with people, and then their impulse is to go on the internet and go like, oh, I didn't like this person in particular's face. Let me find some study or something that validates my weird tendency to find particular racial groups unattractive or something like that. It just strikes me as just painfully hollow and depressing. You know?
Mm. Do you think race is a big part of my content?
I have no idea. I don't watch your content.
Okay, so do you think it's just like basically a big part of my content is like basically projecting personal negative experiences I have and kind of complaining on my channel?
I have no idea. I don't watch your content.
Well, that's the claim you're trying to make is that I watched this stream. It's with Annalicia, and you were making a claim why you think why I think on
Well,
average.
I think I was making a judgment that you seem, when I try to picture myself in your head talking about what you're talking about and being motivated to have those particular resources to hand, I feel like I would be miserable.
So you think I'm a miserable person because I made the claim that black women on average are less desired in dating marketplace? That's the foundation of your argument for why I'm miserable.
No, I'm not arguing that you're miserable. Again, like meaning no offense to you in particular.
You're
I
good.
don't really
You
think
want
about
to-
you at all. I think what I was indicating is that when I think about what it would take for someone to even bother to look that information up in the first place, I don't know, man. It just feels like a gross starting point to be looking at partners from. But that's just me.
Yeah, well, it's not like you made that claim once. You made that claim like about a dozen times or half a dozen times. Oh, this guy must be miserable. This guy's miserable. So I was hoping there would be like some logical reason for why you think I'm miserable. But it seems like the crux of your argument, unless there's more to it, is that you watched one of my debates and I pulled up a statistic. Also, it seems that you're
Well,
thinking that like,
sort of like you acquired that statistic, right? That's a thing you went out and sought. Why?
well, because I was doing a debate about it.
A debate about what?
I was debating Annalisa, who quite often talks about race issues. So I researched some race
But
stuff.
what was the specific issue of the debate that would compel you to find that
It,
information?
it was all over the place. But when I debate someone, I typically do my research.
You go looking for like which racial groups people in America find the least attractive.
Well, if I'm debating someone
Yeah.
who's literally nonstop whenever she does debates, talks about race and talks about race and how it affects dating, I think that's a very relevant thing for me to research.
Well, if you say so, Chief.
I mean, is your issue that I just like prepare for my debates?
I don't have an issue with you at all. This is not a sphere I engage with. The reason why we're talking is actually not because of the comment under the YouTube channel. It's actually coming back to me. You DM'd me randomly, and you were upset about the Andrew Tate comment, and you challenged me to a debate. And I said, if you pay my editor $300 because we were doing a fundraiser for them because they're moving, I'll take you up on that. I don't know if you did. I don't think you did. And then Ask Yourself said, "Oh, those guys kind of chill. Actually, you can just talk to them." That's about it. I have no interest in you whatsoever.
Wait, hold up, my man. First of all, I never said I was going to pay your editor 300.
No. That was a demand I set, which I ignored after the fact because Ask Yourself said that you were worth talking
Also,
to.
I wasn't upset. I just found it funny. I don't really give a shit.
Oh, well,
either.
good. I'm glad you got a laugh.
I just think it's interesting because, like when I was preparing for this debate, like I don't know you well enough to make the claim that you're miserable, right? I don't know. I don't know that much about you.
I don't know. After last night, it's probably a safe bet.
Okay, well, so do you think that you're just projecting the fact that you're miserable onto me?
I was making a joke. I was looping with Hawes last night for like 4 hours. It was a nightmare.
Okay. Yeah, it just seems like a really random thing to say about someone with like zero evidence. Like zero evidence.
All right. Well, are you miserable, Mr. Playing with Fire? What do I call you, by the way?
You call me Alex.
Alex, okay. Are you miserable?
No, I'm pretty happy, man. I have a good
for
life.
you.
Good relationship with my family, good relationship with my girlfriend, have a good business, have a dog that I love, get to do all the things I
glad to hear it.
So, yeah. Okay, well, we can, I guess you're like no longer sticking to that claim, we can move past it, move on to the Andrew Tate stuff.
Sure.
You're like laughing at it, but that's true. Like you're no longer like sticking to that claim. You're like, oh, I don't know, man. I guess I just like spoke out of line. So, that's fine.
It's just this is not important. This is not like a. I'm not invested in this. Okay.
Well, you don't think it's important to make claims about someone that have no basis in logic? Like if I say,
well, no, there was a logic there. It's just not important. You are not important. This interaction is not important. You having a weird obsession with black women's attractiveness to other people is not important. It just doesn't matter.
Wait, do you think because I referenced one statistic in a race debate that means I have a weird obsession with black women?
I think it's no. I think it's a little strange that with no very very strong topic specific compulsion. Oh damn, am I trapped in this room? You would be seeking out that information in particular. That's just odd, you know? That just strikes me as odd. I can't see myself doing that. I can't see myself going, oh, I'm talking to someone who talks a lot about race issues. I better have the statistics on how less attractive Chinese women are in the dating pool according to. So I don't even know how on earth you would actually acquire that statistic in the first place. So the methodology of that is probably very very strange, but it's just weird, dude. It's just a little weird.
I don't think it's weird at all. I think if you're doing a debate with someone and their whole thing is race and dating, that you do a little bit of research about race and dating. I think.
Well, I mean, race and dating can encompass race and dating can encompass so many different things. It can encompass, for example, things like I don't know, behavioral quirks that are noted by some groups towards others. So, for example, people will talk about like things like, you know, I'm a hard leftist, so people might talk about things like microaggressions, or they might talk about things like maybe classism or things of that sort. I have no idea. It's just a little bit strange to be zeroing in on black women's faces are less attractive as per this study. What was the methodology for that, by the way? I'm a little bit confused. I didn't look into it, but I am curious now.
This was like a year ago. I don't remember exactly what study it was, but
do you remember by chance like where the study was conducted, or what was the sample size?
This was a while ago, my man. I mean, I can pull it up later if you want, but yeah, I don't remember like.
No, it's fine. If you forget it, it's not going to be important to me later.
Yeah. But yeah, okay. I mean, I just personally think it's a little weird to make a claim about somebody you know nothing about that they're miserable because you don't like one study that they referenced in a debate about race. I mean, I think that's like kind of a crazy claim. It'd be like if I said President Sunday is a liar, and you're like, okay, man, well, what makes me a liar? Well, I don't really know. It's just kind of the feeling I have. But like, well, what did I lie about? Well, I can't pinpoint specific things you lied about. It's just I
I,
get the
I
gut
gave you
feeling.
I gave you a specific thing. You just didn't like it.
Well, you're role specific, but that has nothing to do with me. You can make the argument
Well,
that
yeah,
like
but the example you're firing back at me is non-specificity. You're saying I think he's a liar for no reason, which would be a little
okay,
strange if I just said, oh, this guy looks miserable. You know, he's got the beard of a miserable man. Something like that. That'd be a little weird. I agree. I didn't do that
okay,
though.
I'll be more specific. I think you're a liar because you made a false claim about me.
Was that a false? I'm pretty sure it's a subjective judgment about your psychology based on stuff that I saw you doing. Now, if you
It
insist,
seems
if you insist, you got first person authority here. If you insist, you're perfectly happy and you love your dog, etc., etc. I'm not going to challenge you on that. Good for you.
I mean, I think like I personally, I would make a claim someone's miserable if I see them like crying on stream, or it looks like they just have a bad life, like things are just not going well for them, or it seems that like, for example, all their relationships like kind of break up, like they're constantly going through a string of relationships. That would at that point I'd be like, you know what, it seems like this person is probably miserable, right? But I think I would like bother to do a tiny amount of research about that person, see if that's actually the case. I mean, dude, you could fundamentally disagree with everything I say, and that's fine. I just find it kind of weird to make that uh that definitive statement. You didn't do it once. If you said it once,
Well,
I would have just
how
gone,
about
oh,
this?
well,
Like, well, here's an example, right? So one kind of person I might make a comment about this with. I used to argue a lot with this rad shred group, and they had two hand all the time, like just a bunch of statistics on race and IQ, and it was weird. These weren't people who were interested in topics where this was germane to anything. They just had this in particular, and so I think it's fair under those circumstances to go like, okay, why are you specifically interested in this? It's a little odd. It tells me, it indicates, rather, if you prefer, some odd things about your perception and your judgment and your values. And that's about it. And when I think about like what it would take for me to be so disposed as to zero in on, oh, I I I need to find the data on how unattractive black women are compared to other uh, women on the basis of their facial structure. I think, wow, I'd probably have to be pretty fucking hollow and miserable to do that. If you're not, good for you. I'm happy for you.
um,
I don't
yeah,
want anybody to be miserable.
I think you would have a point if I was like talking about like Tinder and then like or something unrelated or like politics. I'm like, oh, let me tell you about how like black women are blah blah blah. I think given the fact that this was a debate with a black woman who is very focused on dating and race, and she constantly makes the
Oh,
argument
talking to a
that
black woman, and your immediate impulse was to go, we need to find the statistics on how
hey,
unattractive
hang on,
black women's
let me
faces
click
are.
on that.
That's an interesting choice.
Right, given the fact that her constant. I mean, are you familiar with Annalisa at all?
Nope.
I don't know. Okay, you're not familiar with her. Okay.
No.
So basically, her whole shtick is that like black men are like basically kind of like traitors to their race because a lot of them choose like white women and they're doing this out of like malicious intent, right? That's the whole thing. My
Mm-hmm.
argument is that like, well, I don't think it needs to be that. I think maybe black men are dating a lot of white women because that's what they're attracted to. And I want to have some kind of science to support that, right? So yeah, I think that's like given that context is like very reasonable what I did. I mean, do you would you say that you think that's wrong? Do you think that statement is wrong? That on average, and we're talking about averages, black women get less love in the dating marketplace than white women, for example?
I have no idea. I can't fathom a world in which I find that interesting in the least. And if I was interested in that question, I think the last place I would look is whether or not they're genetically disposed to be physically less attractive.
Okay, so you don't have an opinion on that. You're not sure if it's true or not.
Well, you don't either. You can't even remember the substance of the study, so clearly it wasn't that important to you. Like when I prepare for a debate, typically that involves work, so I have like some recollection of the particulars. This was obviously just a one-off. This was not the result of like a rigorous search. You
You
just
do
went
realize
there
that
first.
that debate was like a year ago.
It's a year long for you.
Yeah, dude,
most
I
of the
don't
stuff I
remember
researched is
studies
from
from
more
a
than
year
a
ago.
year
I mean, do
ago.
you remember studies you referenced a year ago? That's
Yeah.
okay. I'm actually looking this up right now. But and yeah, there seems to be quite a few articles why dating apps, for example, aren't too favorable to Black women. And
Sure.
yeah.
Is there a general consensus that objectively black women are genetically less attractive?
The consensus is that Black women, on average, get less love in the dating marketplace than white women. The question is
Well,
why.
it was a yes or no question. So,
Right, and I'm telling you what it is.
but yeah, but
So then
you're answering a different
that's what
question. I was asking if the information that they were putting forward suggests that they were. I don't know if I'm cutting you off. It sounds like I thought I heard murmuring a little bit. I don't know if my mic's just over talking yours.
you're good, dude. It's okay.
Okay,
I'll tell you if
just wanted
you're
to make
cutting.
sure. What on earth is up with this camera?
Well, like,
Um,
okay, not to like detract too much, but let me just get your opinion. Why do you think, right? Okay, given the fact that Black women get less love in the dating marketplace than white women, why do you think that is? What do you think is causing that?
I have no idea.
Okay. So if you don't know this is an issue you're agnostic on, then why would you criticize my position? I
An
could be
issue with
right
my
since you
what?
don't know anything about this issue. Well, it seems like you have an issue with my
Oh, an
position.
issue I'm agnostic on. Sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
Yeah, you're
Um,
agnostic on this issue, which is fine,
well,
but it just seems
I'm
kind of
not like
odd
agnostic.
that
I just
you're.
haven't looked
Wait, well,
into it
let
because
me just finish. Let me finish. It seems kind of
okay.
odd that you're like being hypercritical of my position on this, which is this is an issue that, according to you, you've never really researched. You don't have a position on.
What are we doing, Alex? What are
I'm
we
just
doing
pointing
here?
out. I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy of your
You're
statements.
really intense on this point. Like you took deep offense to something, but we have no
I
relationship.
really
We
did
have
not
no
want to.
audience overlap as far as I can tell. What are we doing? Like,
I'm just
we could
pointing
talk
out
about
that
something interesting. Like we're all gonna die. We have limited time on this earth. We
I,
could do
I know you want to move away from this topic
I
because it's not looking good for you. That's fine. We can move on. But what are we doing? I'm pointing out the hypocrisy of your statements. I didn't make
okay.
any statements about you that you're miserable. You made the statements about me. And I'm pointing out why these statements are factually incorrect and how your logic breaks
But
down.
you're not. I've got to be honest with you, dude. Though, like the fact that you're fixating on this so hard doesn't make me think you're less miserable. It makes me think, damn, this guy is really insecure and hypersensitive.
Do you understand how a debate works? Like this is you and I are not sitting at a bar. We're having a debate.
Are we?
So that means finding things we disagree on and exploring them.
I'm jumping around a space station right now, listening to a weirdo who's obsessed with whether or not black women have genetically inferior faces to white women.
Really? You think I'm the one that keeps pushing this issue?
I didn't. I didn't. You're the one who
Typically,
said it, dude, not me.
typically, when people run out of things to say, they just regress back to ad hominem attacks. So that kind of tells me that you just literally are just like stuck on this topic, and you're like,
Yeah,
"Well, I don't know how to respond to it logically, so let me just
yeah.
insult him and call
I'm
him
the
a
one
weirdo."
stuck on this topic. Just stuck.
My man, this was the only reason that you could reference for why I must be miserable. You didn't give me a broad
I'm
list of
not.
reasons.
I
You didn't give me
cannot.
one thing.
Look, Alex. I lack the language to express to you just how completely uninterested I am and how miserable you are or aren't. Like I just do not care.
I know it's really, really frustrating when you have a debate and people call you out on their shit. I get it, man. Uh, okay, listen,
What are the stakes here exactly?
there's no stakes.
That's my point. Yeah. Why are we
I
talking
mean,
about this?
well, that's how a debate works. We talk about things we disagree on.
Well, not necessarily. Like typically, I mean, sure, but like it could be about something interesting.
Well, I think this is very interesting. This is not interesting to you, then we can move on. I feel like we've exhausted this topic quite as well. But
Sure.
yeah, uh, I understand it's not a topic you're looking good on. We can move on to the next one.
Yeah, that's
I
it.
don't think
I think you just.
I don't think this is going to be one that's going to be particularly.
I am laid bare for the fraud that I am. Let's continue.
Your words, not mine. All right. So another one was this kind of the thing that kicked it off is that you said that I'm Andrew Tate light or Walmart Andrew Tate. So I guess my question would be, what makes me like Andrew Tate?
Well, I looked at a tiny portion of your content, and what I saw, you can correct me on the timeline, but a decent time after Andrew Tate is arrested on sex trafficking suspicions, you're sitting on your couch with like, here are the 10 rules of success by Andrew Tate, and it's just weird. It's just weird. So I'm looking at this and it's like, okay, this is a guy whose bread and butter is being the guy people watch when Andrew Tate content is dry.
What are some specifics you think that I have in common? Like some positions I have that Andrew Tate has.
Um, that's about it. I don't know you. I don't watch your stuff. I know nothing about you except that you're
Wait, hang on.
you're an apologist. You were an apologist for him like way back.
First of all, I was not. You're fundamentally wrong about that.
You had that whole Vosh conversation where you were like, you were saying it's not that bad, man. It's like, look, he yeah, sure, he treats women with absolute contempt. He thinks it's his position to like subvert their autonomy and make decisions for them, but you know, it's not hating women technically. And
okay, first of all, the Vosh conversation happened way before the arrest. But going back to this,
I know.
So the statement was we can get into a whole debate about the ethics of Andrew Tate after we're done with this point.
Sure.
But the comment that you made is that I'm like basically Andrew Tate 2.0. I'm like a cheap ripoff of Andrew Tate. And I guess that would mean
discount Andrew Tate is what I said. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure. That would mean that me and Andrew Tate believe a lot of the same things. And then your whole argument when I ask you that were some specifics.
Well, not necessarily. It may be just that you're
you did
fulfilling
one
the same
video
rules, right?
where you pointed out some things that you agree with Andrew Tate on. That seems like a really weak argument for why I'm Andrew Tate light.
Well, there's some things you agree with Andrew Tate on.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we run down the list? And let's see. That could be interesting. Maybe.
Well, I'm just curious to see. Sure, we can do that. I'm just curious to see what you have in your mind. I can.
I have nothing except for that. A good part of your content seems to be, hey, here's some cool shit that Andrew Tate said, guys. Listen up. This is the wit and wisdom of Andrew Tate. Like that's.
What percentage of my content do you think is?
I don't know, nor do I care.
Because you're describing one video. Out of
good. I'm pleased to hear that. Now, me personally, I'd rather shoot myself than have that one video up with my face on it. But that's just me.
Do you agree? Okay, let's explore it like this. Do you think discipline is important for a man?
Yeah, sure.
Do you think self-accountability is important?
What does that mean, self-accountability?
Like if you do something wrong, instead of blaming others, you hold yourself accountable.
So you mean just like taking responsibility? Sure.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so you're just describing things that I said in that video, which are things that Andrew Tate was advertising. So I didn't say that in that video. Did you actually watch the video? Let me start off with that.
I can't remember a word of it, but yes.
Okay.
I think I watched it on stream.
Okay.
I think I watched it in that stream that you said you watched. That.
Well, I watched part of your stream. But okay, so So I think every single thing, one of the things that I mentioned in that video, you and I would probably agree on. Unless you can point out one thing in that video that said that you're like, whoa, I don't like this message. But it was all general self-help shit.
Yeah, no, the weird thing is not like the basic milquetoast vanilla, hey man, you gotta go wake up early in the morning and you gotta go to the gym and shit like that. That's like, whatever. The weird thing is like, I really need to capitalize on the image of Andrew Tate to market this. That's a weird decision to me. Maybe you've got some 5D chess justification for it. I think that's embarrassing. But that's just me. That's a matter of taste.
Wait, you think it's weird to talk about things that are trending on YouTube?
I think it's a little bit weird to attach your face to Andrew Tate as a brand and as a source of inspiration. Me personally, even if a sex trafficker gave fantastic advice, I would find a justification that doesn't involve telling my audience, hey guys, here's some really cool shit that this rapist said, you know? But that's just me, once again.
Do you think people are black and white, like meaning you're either good or bad? Or do you think people can be complex characters? There's some bad, there's bad to them, there's good to them, there's some things they say that's right, there's some things that say it's wrong.
You know, I thought the latter for a little bit, but after last night with Haas, I just don't know anymore.
No, but like seriously, what's like your real answer?
No, I think people are black and white. I'm
playing
near. They're all black and. Oh no, she's red. Never mind. I tell a lie.
Or you? I can't tell with you. Are you like you actually think people are just that overly simplistic, where it's either they're good or bad? There's no.
I'm joking. Of course, I think people are complicated.
Right. Exactly. Right. That's exactly how I think as well. So, what is the issue with me pointing out some of the good things that this person has done, while at the same time in other streams pointing out the bad things. I've publicly condemned
the
Andrew Tate.
decision to do so in the wake of this person being held under strong suspicion of engaging in sex trafficking is a little strange. The advice you were proposing wasn't
It's
new.
like basic
It
YouTuber
wasn't
101.
original. It could have been sourced from anywhere. You could have just done it yourself. God knows Andrew Tate isn't original. You could have just put your own face under that, but instead you wanted to capitalize on the reputation of a rapist and human trafficker, which is a little strange.
Well, first of all, he hasn't been convicted of either one of those things. But that aside, yeah, I don't think it's strange at all to capitalize on a trend. That's what literally every YouTuber does. Unless you're going to tell me
not capitalize on not just capitalize on a trend though. See, it's kind of like here's the difference, okay? It's like, look, here's some good advice on how to have like good relationships with your neighborhood. And then alternatively, your strategy, here's some good advice from Adolf Hitler on how to have a good relationship with your neighborhood. You see, I wouldn't unless I was doing a parody, as an editorial decision, I just wouldn't do the latter.
Okay, I mean, dude, you're entitled to run your channel any way you want. What I don't understand, and you can be critical of me. I guess the argument you would have to make is like, hey, I think this was like in poor taste that you capitalized on Andrew Tate, given blah 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 blah. That's a little bit.
I just don't know why after insisting that you're just this well-rounded, happy-go-lucky person with like healthy relationships, yada yada yada. We're having this extensive conversation on the basis of you being offended by some guy not liking your YouTube videos.
Okay, first of all, dude, I don't know how many times I keep telling you, I'm not offended. I don't give a shit.
You sound very much like you're not offended. I believe you 100%.
See, now you're gaslighting me.
You sound stoic and unfazed.
Is this what you do when you start losing debates and just start gaslighting people?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, yeah. Anyway, so once again, not offended. Don't give a shit. Going back to the actual discussion that we're trying to have. So you can make an argument for why that video was maybe in poor taste, and that's a separate discussion. But I don't see how me making one video that about someone that's trending and pointing out some things about them makes me an Andrew Tate light. Like, in order for me to be an Andrew Tate light, I have to agree with them on a lot of ideas.
You're like a red pill male advice channel, right?
I'm not red pill, but I do advise.
Okay. Whatever you like. You're like here's how you get the women channel. That's what you do. We'll
give dating advice for sure.
Sure. Okay. So naturally, of course, you decide to source Andrew Tate as a repository of wisdom in this regard, while he's being held in suspicion of sex trafficking. And I agree. Like, it is very important for you that he has not been found guilty yet.
I think that's important for any case. But you're making a straw man argument, assuming that like I view as Andrew Tate as this like fucking god, or I think he's like super wise. No, I don't. I think
I don't think he's your god. I just think he's like your
my idol.
No, I think he's like.
Go ahead.
I think he's like the cool uncle your parents don't want you to hang out with, but you know, is just so much fun.
Right, and you're fundamentally wrong about that. I don't like put Andrew Tate on a pedestal. I publicly disagree with him about many things that you would know if you bothered to do more research. But there are some things that I agree with him on. It sounds like all the things I've mentioned are things you're going to disagree on too. It seems like the crux of your issue is that you felt it was poor taste for me to do that video and capitalize on the trend. And that's then looking into like YouTube ethics, but that has nothing to do, what you're saying has nothing to do with me either being or not being Andrew Tate like. And again, in order to
discount Andrew Tate.
Let me just finish, please.
Like Andrew Tate, but cheaper.
Okay, let me just finish my statement, then you can respond. In order for you to really substantiate that claim, you would have to show a lot of characteristics that I share in common with Andrew Tate. Oh, you talk about this. Andrew Tate talks about that. This seems like a big overlap. Oh, it seems like you're copying his ideas on that. So that's again,
how about you're a weird fragile brickhead who sells trashy dating advice to insecure young men who's obsessed with racial characteristics of dating partners. I don't know.
People always start doing their losing debates, gaslighting, and personal insults. Do you have like an actual intellectual response, or are you just gonna regress back to
this? God, no.
Okay, so you can't substantiate your claim at all.
No,
So this is another claim.
I'm just not motivated to.
Another. Okay. Oh, you're not motivated,
I
right?
think you kind of, I think it's kind of self-evident what you are just by how you speak and what you do.
Ah, self-evident, right? So
Yeah,
basically, you got caught talking out of your ass. You have no logical points you can make, and the only thing you can do now is troll and make personal insults.
that's it.
Great,
That's
great
exactly
debater
what
right
you
there,
have.
President Trump. Great, top-notch debate skills.
Thank you.
This but I'm the one that's butt hurt, right? So okay, so you're not going
Yeah,
to substantiate that at all. You're just going to sit here and you're just going to make snide remarks like, yeah, loser.
I'm also going to play Nier at the same time. Have you played Nier, by the way? It's really good.
No, I don't play video
Oh,
games.
well, you
I think
should.
people who
You're
play
missing
video
out.
games are
This
miserable.
is a lot of games are just a waste of time. This one is art.
Alrighty. I think we've gone to the edge of that topic. I don't think I'm going to get any like logical out of you. So I'm going to redirect to this.
To Nier,
What
that'd
is
be
your
awesome. Can we seriously? You want to talk about that? That'd be cool.
no, dude? I don't. What is your dating advice for men? You say like my advice is trashy, so I want to hear what is your advice.
What's my dating advice for men?
Yeah.
I don't generally give dating advice for men.
Well, if you have
I guess find someone that you're generally compatible with, that you're happy being around on a day-to-day basis, that you can like plan a future with, kind of thing, and don't focus too much on superficial stuff when there's fundamental incompatibilities beneath the surface that'll make your life miserable. One of the things that I found is that colleagues in some kind of venture or study or work can make excellent partners because you have a whole ton in common already. Or, make connections over mutual interests and things like that.
sure. Well, what about if you're a guy who's having a hard time talking to girls? What would you tell that guy?
Talking to girls? I mean, I just talk to girls the way I talk to everybody.
Okay. How's that been working for you?
Yeah, doing pretty fine, thank you.
Are you?
Yeah.
Do you have a girlfriend or what's your situation?
It's complicated in a positive way.
Oh, okay. I'll take your word for it. But yeah, so once again, so you're making the claim that my dating advice sucks, it's trashy. So I'm just curious, like what you would suggest. What am I specifically wrong about?
I
So far you said
Well,
look
I
for
think
girls with
I think
mutual
the
interest.
major I
Wait,
think
stop.
the
You gotta let me finish.
major
My man, you gotta
if I
let
may
me
just
finish.
very quickly, just I think the major indicator again, unfortunately, loops back to the Andrew Tate thing. The fact that you would offer this person as a model or a source of advice at all suggests profoundly poor judgment. The fact that this person would be on your radar, that you would be watching him for dating advice, suggests extremely poor judgment.
Do you
Maybe other things as well, but we'll stay modest here.
do you think that you're better when it comes to dating than Andrew Tate?
Well, I'm not in a Romanian prison, so take
Yeah,
that how
but
you will.
do you think you've been more successful with women than Andrew Tate?
I think I have partners. I think Andrew Tate had sex slaves.
Okay, so you actually do think you've been more successful with women than Andrew Tate?
Depends on how you rate success. I personally don't consider having a bunch of meat bots around me that I use as fleshlights to be successful in terms of relationships.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
once again, that's a matter of taste.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you have this tendency to just like kind of deflect by making like fucking personal insults or like making logical points. I don't know, man. It's kind of lame, honestly.
If you say
Uh,
it must be true then.
well, yeah, you've done it all throughout the debate whenever you've been pressing a point. But anyway, going back to this. So the one piece of advice you gave is that look for girls with mutual interests, and we agree on that. Actually, I agree with you on that.
Well, there
That
you go.
is
Good.
that is true. That is what you should do. Give me some more. What are some other piece of wisdom for dating?
Oh, I have no idea, dude. I haven't dated in forever.
I thought you said you have a girl that you're seeing.
Yeah.
So
Well,
what are
not really, but yeah.
okay? So what are some things that guys can do to be more successful in their relationships?
Well, once again, like pursue relationships that last, and one of the ways you do that is you seek out people with common interests and compatible
Yeah,
characters
we
and
get
things like
that.
that.
I get it. But what else? You gave one piece of advice. I want to hear a few more.
Um, I don't know. Be respectful of their goals. Be patient. Prioritize. Like stuff of lasting importance over quick and easy access to sex or whatever. Self improvement is always good. Work on your own health. Make yourself somebody who's not a nightmare to be around.
Oh, you're just describing the content of my channel.
Sure. But I didn't invoke a sex trafficker to sell it to you.
So your whole issue, the whole reason that why my content sucks is because I made one video talking about someone who's trending and agree with him on things that
A
you
sex
agree.
trafficker rapist, yeah.
Well, once again, he's not convicted. Do you think it's okay to just say someone is guilty of something without there even being charges filed?
Well, I mean, the entire reason why he's in Romania in the first place is because he was bragging about how their laws are less strict about that sort of thing.
That once again doesn't answer my question at all.
Hmm?
Like, do you think, for example, for you, President Sunday, let's say your little
I think Andrew Tate is being held on false charges like Tom Robinson and To Kill a Mockingbird. I agree with
Oh,
you.
I didn't say that either. First of all, he's not being held on any charges. Charges haven't been filed. Okay, so let's say your little drama with Kyla escalates, and she makes the claim that President Sunday is a rapist, and no charges have been filed. Do you think it would be fair for me to call you a rapist?
No, no, probably not.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, it would be.
However, if
Okay.
I had a harem of girls, a bunch of whom had accused me of rape and sex trafficking, who I had stamped my logo on, um, who had fled to a foreign land because their laws are lax, and I bragged about my criminality, then I'd probably be a little bit more forgiving of somebody who jumped to that conclusion.
Okay, and so you think that my whole content, everything I talk about, which actually so far is in line with everything you mentioned, which is your dating advice, is
Cool.
discounted because wait, stop, let me finish. Because I made one video where I talked about what Andrew Tate says that's motivational. Like, you think that really just discounts every single piece of advice I have on my channel?
Yeah.
Really? That's the argument you're going to make?
Oh yeah. I think that basically taints you as a source. Suggests that you have extremely poor judgment, maybe very low morals.
Okay.
The fact that you're defending this makes me think you're kind of an idiot. I don't know.
That's your argument. So okay, so if there was
Yeah.
one video on your channel that I disagree with because I thought it was in poor taste, like for example, you're
If
not
I
so arrogant. Wait, hang on,
if I make a video, I'll tell you
wait,
what.
dude, hang
I'll
on,
tell you
hang
what.
on.
No,
I've
no.
let you finish. Just let me finish. Let me finish.
I'll tell you
One
what.
at a time.
I'll tell you what.
Okay, so
If you find a video on my channel with 12 Rules for Life by Jeffrey Dahmer, then you got me.
okay, I'm gonna go back to what I was saying initially before
Okay.
I was interrupted.
Dude.
So do you think, for example, I think the Kyla video was in poor taste, right? I think it was unnecessary intrusion into her life. I think it was kind of
I think your comment was who cares.
wait,
So
let me finish. Let me finish. I think that video was pretty dumb. Do you think it's fair for me to just discount every single thing you say on your channel because I disagree with your choice for one person that you exposed?
that's completely your prerogative. Yeah.
Okay.
Feel free.
I think that's a really, really dumb way to
Can I
live.
be honest with you? I think your endorsement would be something I'd be very concerned about having. I am much
Well,
more
don't worry.
comfortable with you
You would never
disavowing.
get my endorsement. I don't endorse
Thank you, brother.
fucking. Anyway, I'm not going to insult you. I think that's kind of a dumb thing to do during debates. But yeah, okay. I mean, I think that's a very silly way to base your judgment, to literally discount every single thing that a person does, especially when it's in line with your values, because you don't like one video they made. I don't know, man.
No, if for
Seems like
whatever reason I found my way to watching your stuff, and that's a pretty good idea. Well, you're in the business of promoting yourself using the stellar reputation of Andrew Tate. I think I'll look for an alternative source for that information. God knows you
well,
probably didn't
what,
invent
what,
it, so
what would be a better source for dating advice?
then you
Yeah,
maybe The Sims. I don't know.
The Sims, a video game,
Video game.
a
How
computer
dare you,
game.
sir?
What is The Sims?
The Sims is a lifestyle.
Okay, I'm not a gamer. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Well, don't worry about it then. Oh, thank you.
But yeah, once again, I'd like to get an answer to my question. What is like a better source for dating advice than my channel? For example,
I'm as stumped as you are. I don't know.
so
What would
there
you
are.
recommend? What's a better dating source than your channel?
Well, I
Well,
think I'm
Andrew
buying.
Tate, clearly, because that's where you
I
get your
think
information from, right?
no, it's not. I think my
Yeah, it
channel is
is.
awesome.
You have an entire
No, it's
video.
not.
Hey, Here's some advice for men from Andrew Tate. You couldn't come up with that. You had to invoke him. You needed his
No,
name there. You needed him on your phone.
it's
And
all
you
things.
knew about it, which means that
Let me
you're
finish. Let me
watching it.
finish. Let
Which
me
means
finish.
that you're paying attention to his dating advice.
Okay, I'm just gonna have to start muting you if you keep interrupting. Just let me finish, and
Oh,
then I'll
please,
let
for
you
the love of
talk.
God.
I haven't interrupted you.
All right.
Okay, so what's it called? No, what you're saying is fundamentally false. All the stuff that he said in that video, obviously, I knew it's basic self-improvement stuff that's been around this community for ages. However, Andrew
However, it's
Tate,
just not the same without the sex trafficker on it, right?
okay,
Yeah,
I'm
I
muting
agree.
you because you can't let me finish.
Oh,
Just let me
no.
finish, and then you can talk.
That's right. I don't
I
want to
don't know
talk to
why
you
like
about this.
liberals are so like fucking keeping
Whoa,
basic
liberal. Now you're
manners.
getting
Okay,
nasty.
so all the stuff that in that video is things that has been around the manosphere for
Oof.
ages. However, Andrew Tate was
Fired up now.
trending, right? I did take advantage of a trend. I think there's nothing wrong with that. That's basically what most YouTubers do. And I made that video more interesting by tying in clips of him, right? Because part of being a content creator is making videos interesting. I don't know if that's a part of something you're that good at particularly, but that is how you become a good content creator. You make your videos interesting by talking about things that are trending. But for you to say that I literally like fucking get all my information from Andrew Tate is fundamentally false. And you have to point out some examples of things, of beliefs that I adopted because of me watching Andrew Tate. I'll let you respond. Go ahead.
You just call me a liberal? How dare you?
That's really all you got?
Yeah, that's the one that stuck
Okay,
out to me.
dumb joke.
I'm gonna let the rest. I'm gonna let the
no
rest stand by
logical
itself.
response. Just like another dumb joke.
I think you got me dead to rights, except on the liberal point. Why'd you say I'm a liberal? That's just mean spirited.
That's really your response. Like you have no logical response, just another dumb joke.
That's not a joke. I take that very seriously.
Okay, dude. I think you're kind of exposing yourself. I don't even need to expose you.
I think you're right. I think you got this one, Haas.
Sorry, man. It is what it is. Okay, so you have no response to that. Okay, just another dumb statement you're gonna make that you can't back up or substantiate.
Yeah, that's it. Although I do want to know why you'd call me a liberal.
Why
It says far leftist on your stream. I don't know where you got liberal out of that.
I asked you initially, is it fair to say that you're far leftist? And
Yeah. You think liberals are far left?
I think they're on that side.
Liberals include people like Locke. That's not far left. You
So
think like Destiny's a
further,
liberal. You think he's far left?
I don't think he's far left.
Yeah, but
So
he's
you
a
think
liberal, right?
so you think I think he's more of a moderate. You think you're further left than most liberals?
Hang on. You think moderates aren't liberals?
Do I think moderates aren't liberals?
Okay, actually, this is interesting. What does liberal mean to you? I'm curious.
Liberal, someone who believes in a set of values that are kind of more to the left. Like, for example, on social issues, they would believe that gay marriage is okay, that we should legalize marijuana. On fiscal
do you think gay marriage isn't okay?
No, I'm cool with it.
So you're a liberal.
In some ways, yeah.
Oh, cool. You're wrong.
Yeah.
What a liberal is. Okay, cool, good. Glad to hear that.
Okay. All right. Anyway, so I'm just curious. So you think you're like further left than like the average liberal?
God, I hope so. So when we say liberal, generally what we mean is not somebody who has a specific set of policy preferences that happen to align with not conservatives, right? Generally, when we say liberal, what we're referring to are people who attach political legitimacy to something which is consistent or affirms the liberal form of the state. So there's an emphasis on private property as that which must be absolutely protected. There's an emphasis on the strict delineation between what the state can and can't interfere with, typically along lines of like ideology. So protection of things like freedom of opinion, the freedom to raise your children with the ideas that you want, et cetera. And conservatives can be liberal as well. In fact, a lot of them are. When conservatives insist upon the defense of private property as like a sacrosanct thing or something like that, they're being conservative about a liberal state of affairs. So liberalism has to do with a relationship to a particular political form. It's not like a set of preferences vis-a-vis being open about things like gay marriage or trans issues or immigration or whatever. Case in point, like a lot of far leftists, and this will be pointed out as a point of ridicule sometimes. I think a little bit unsophisticatedly, but a lot of far leftists are also going to be like heavily racist and heavily misogynistic, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a
Okay.
strong distinction between the two.
This was the smartest, most articulate thing you've said in the last 45 minutes.
Thank
If
you.
you just apply this kind of like real life critical thinking to the other topics, I think you might be able to actually make a good point instead of just making straw man
Well,
personal
I
attacks.
just don't
Okay,
I just don't care about the other topics. They're boring. They're so boring.
my man, you make claims about me. They're factually false.
I don't
That bores you? Like if I say President
I
Sunday
don't
is
think
a
I do.
rapist and you're like, what's the evidence?
No, I didn't accuse you of a crime. I made a comment about the the type of content that you do, and I made a comment about how I think you must be miserable to do it.
Yeah, you're insulting my character and my virtue and my state of mind and my brand.
Well, I'm commenting on your state of mind. I don't think I would insult someone on the grounds that they're miserable. Sometimes decent people can feel miserable.
I mean, my man, you said it over and over again. This guy must be miserable. This guy's so miserable. This guy must be like ultra
Yeah,
miserable.
and you're really convincing me of the contrary hard right now.
Why? Because I'm challenging you on something really dumb that you said.
Because this is like a massive point of sensitivity for you.
It really is not, dude. I don't give a shit at all. I just think it's really funny to
Sure,
call
sure you
out
don't.
people who have zero idea what they're talking about and talk out of their ass.
Sorry, say it again. I couldn't hear you over the character jumping on the screen.
I just enjoy calling out people who talk out of their ass and have zero idea what they're talking about when it comes to a topic.
All right.
I don't give a shit, my man. I don't give a shit. I could care less what you think about me. It makes zero difference. I just find it funny to just kind of challenge you and like call you out on this shit, and then
I
watch how
mean,
you.
we've spent an hour talking about what I think about you. So I don't know. Like me
Well,
personally, I
spent
like when Ask Yourself suggested that we chat. That told me, oh, maybe this guy wants to talk about something interesting, or maybe like he's capable of having interesting conversations. And maybe you are. Maybe I just struck a nerve somewhere. But
this is more
I
gas.
I don't know, dude. Like I can think of a million things I'd rather spend an hour talking about than somebody said they think I'm miserable on the internet. There are millions of
Chad,
people like that.
this is what gaslighting looks like. I literally told you the debate proposition was going to be at least we're going to start with whether I'm Andrew Tate 1 or 2.0 or Andrew Tate Light, whatever the fuck it is.
Seen these things before?
Yeah, but we've canvassed that already. Like the basis of that is that you do roughly the same kind of content, and you
No,
sell
son. The basis.
yourself on you see fit to sell yourself on Andrew Tate's brand, which is
No,
why.
no. That's not what you said. The basis of that is because I have one video where I point out
Well,
the positive.
not just one video. You also like actually take hours out of your day to defend the nuance of Andrew Tate's misogyny in front of thousands of people. Like I would never do that. That's just embarrassing, frankly.
You're taking hours of your day to defend statements that you made about a guy that you seem to dislike.
No,
We're content creators.
somebody I have
This
some
is what we
regard for.
do.
No, somebody I have some regard for suggested you'd be good to talk to, and I'm playing near.
I literally, dude, when in your reaction video, when someone was like, "Why are you doing this?" You're like, "Oh, he has 100,000 subs." So let's not pretend like you're doing. Ask yourself a favor, okay? You at least part of
No,
you wanted.
I'm not doing Ask Yourself a favor. It's just I have some regard for Ask Yourself on a personal level. He's been decent to me, and he's fairly intelligent. So when he says, "Oh, this guy's worth talking to," I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And I'm not gonna say that he's wrong. I just think just on the basis of this showing, I'm not very convinced, to be honest.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I think we've exhausted the all these previous topics because it's not getting anywhere. Let's move on to this. I'm just kind of curious.
Sure.
I asked you what would be a better dating channel. You didn't have an answer to that.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't watch dating channels.
Okay. What I asked you for what would be good dating advice. You don't really have much you can say in regards to that besides very basic things
Yeah.
that you and I actually agree on, which is interesting. So far, you haven't said one thing when it comes to dating that I disagree with. So let's talk about politics.
Well, I mean, once again, if I'm targeting my channel at a bunch of people who are failing at dating and are fairly insecure and don't know how to talk to members of the opposite sex, the last thing I would do is direct them to someone like Andrew Tate under any circumstances as a source of information or wisdom on that issue.
My man, you seem more obsessed with Andrew Tate than I am.
No,
Like every time I try to do
you're really
reference back to Andrew
really
Tate.
butthurt about me calling you a discount Andrew Tate, which is the only reason why
More
we're talking about this.
gaslighting. Is this what you do when you start losing debates? You just start gaslighting.
What do you think gaslighting is?
What I think gaslighting is exactly what you're doing right now.
Well, can you describe it for me?
Trying to convince people of things that is not true and things that you're actually doing yourself.
What am I doing myself that or what that I'm accusing you of doing? Don't say being obsessed with Andrew Tate. That's going to be a hard sell. I'm sorry.
You really want me to get to that? Well, I think that you're gaslighting me when you constantly say I'm miserable. I think you're actually
I don't constantly say you're miserable. You said you're not miserable, and I took your word for it. Good for you.
Like it seems like you're kind of a miserable person. Honestly, from what I've seen so far. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
I'm pretty happy. I'm desperately underslept. I'll be a lot happier when I've had like a couple days off, but I'm pretty happy.
Okay.
I get to talk about the stuff. Well, I mean, not this last week, but I get to talk about the stuff that I'm really interested in as my job. I have a bunch of healthy relationships. I managed to make the Christmas mod work on Nier, but I can't get it off yet, so that's kind of iffy. You know, I'm doing good.
Okay. I'm glad
I have many leather-bound books. I have cardigans and an infinite supply of coffee. I couldn't be happier.
That's good. Okay, so anyway, let's go back to this. So what are you were talking about politics. I think that's your bread and butter, so we talk about that a little bit more. What is like the furthest, I guess, lefty position that you take on, or you can name me several, and we can explore that.
What's the furthest? That's a good question. I don't have like a lot of specific positions. Most of my political science content is critical of I guess assumptions a lot of people take with them into political analyses. So, for example, sometimes, and these are awful, so the streams themselves are like waffling and overlong. But sometimes I'll respond to like what if Altus videos, where he'll take a few, categories from someone like Samuel Huntington, like the concept of civilization or the concept of nations or whatever. He'll just attach qualities to those things, and that will suffice for an explanatory heuristic for, well, here's why women destroyed Rome or some shit like that. I'll interrogate stuff like that, like maybe the notion of civilization isn't as obvious and universally accepted amongst political theorists as he thinks, and maybe it's for very good reasons, and I'll try to interrogate those. Or maybe there's stuff like that. In terms of hard lefty positions, I guess I'm extremely skeptical of the maintenance of the liberal state as a universal justification for I don't know, like arresting like political activism or as the basis of justice or things like that.
So are you talking about like if there's just people who are peacefully protesting don't get arrested? Are you talking about in America, like for example, when protests turn into riots and the police arresting those people? Is that
I think the distinction between protests and riots is a little bit operative there too, right? Like at what point does a protest become illegitimate, or at what point does its cause become less important than the disruptions it causes for the institutions around them? Things like that.
I guess I'm just trying to figure out what exactly is your position. I'm still confused on what it is.
Well,
like for example,
I don't have a lot of firm policy positions. I'm fairly fluid that way. Most of what I do, fluid's probably the wrong word. I'm mostly agnostic that way. Most of what I do is I'm interested in interrogating concepts that a lot of people's analytic methodologies are laden with. That's my primary interest. Where I fall on that, like in terms of like what kind of system of government I would prefer, what kind of social form I think is the best. Like I'm largely in the dark about those as kind of a function of my specific interests. Like jumping on one of those would be putting the cart before the horse for me, you know?
But you really don't have any, I mean, I'm a little lost if I'm being honest. You don't have any like hard policy positions?
No,
Like, for
of
example,
course I do. Of course I do. Like, for example,
okay, well, that's what I'm curious about. Like, just
sure,
let me try to give you an example. So, if you said what is like the furthest lefty position you have, I would say probably has to do with climate change. I think we should take climate change very seriously. I'm okay with taxing whatever
sure,
corporations
yeah.
more for the sake of protecting climate. I think climate should be a very very hard priority, right? That's a pretty far lefty position that I
The
take. So I'm
climate?
just
I don't think
curious.
the climate's a far lefty position. Like, it's definitely like people on the right will often conspiracy monger about how climate change isn't a big deal and it's being used to like assert government control over the political opposition of quote unquote liberals, as you would call them. But I don't think that's necessarily a hard left position. There are, for example, eco-fascists, things like that. Like there are a lot of people on both sides of the aisle who take climate change seriously. That's not strictly speaking a partisan issue along those strict ideological lines. Um,
Okay. If you say so, but I guess what I'm more interested in is what are some like lefty positions, the hardest lefty positions that you personally take?
I think I think right now probably like my positions on like the trans issue,
Okay.
and
No.
probably on things like attitudes towards things like police reform, protest, whatever. I'm not like a free speech absolutist in the sense that I think that whoever has the money to just bring in some kind of like political or social cult leader onto a college campus means that they should be able to do so and use that to grow their positions. I don't think that there's any uh, particular need to have like a 50-50 split in terms of conservative and left wing
Okay.
slash
So
liberal
what are your
representation
positions
education.
on the trans issue?
I think gender is a historically constructed contingent thing that um, does not stand up under scrutiny, and that we shouldn't be assigning people social roles on the basis of an arbitrary set of biological characteristics.
Do you believe there's more than two genders?
Um, I think there are potentially unlimited amounts of genders. A gender just refers to a social role that one performs, right? It doesn't necessarily refer to the biological sex of a person.
Okay. So do you think there's more than two sexes?
No.
Okay. What do you think about
I mean, I
trans?
think I think I'm no biologist, but I think it's sort of built into the concept of sex that there's two.
Okay.
I
What
could
do
I
you
could
think
be wrong
about?
on that. Hmm?
No, I think you're right. What do you think about trans in sports? Meaning like a woman who, sorry, a man who becomes a woman and he competes in
Well,
like
it would be a woman with a male presenting body who undergoes transition therapies to present as female. Yeah.
yeah. So how do you feel about that? You think that
Because
should be
that
allowed?
that's a distinction, right? So female doesn't equal woman. That would be a crucial point there.
Yeah, I feel like it's
I
hard
think an
semantic.
easy solution is just to partition sports according to weight class. I wouldn't even bother with that. I'm in the dark about like I know some people like Jangles have done research into this that I haven't, um, on which I watched a little while ago, but I can't quite recall it. On like the fact that there isn't quite the crippling advantage that is often argued for example, trans women in women's sports. But I think for me, once we've already onboarded the idea that gender is not determined by biological sex, um, the obvious move is just to remove gender from sports or remove sex from sports entirely and just go by weight class.
Okay. Well, we do have in a lot of sports, like let's talk about like fighting, for example, or
Sure.
boxing, or MMA. We do have weight class in that. But do you think,
Okay.
like for
Well,
example,
there you go.
a a man who transitions into a woman, uh, as long as he's in the same weight class as
That'd
like
be
Ronda
that'd be that
Rousey,
would be that would
should
be a
be
woman who
allowed to?
undergoes transition to present as a woman. They're not a man. That's
Okay.
critical.
Do you
Case
think?
in point, like at what point in their transition do they become a woman?
Well, I'm asking you that. When do you think they should be allowed to compete in the cis
Well, I
women?
think I think the transition therapies are done to match the actual gender of the person, so that they are expressing the gender effectively. I don't think the issue is litigating whether or not a trans woman is actually a woman. They are.
You're really, really good at saying a lot of things without actually saying anything or answering the question.
That's what
It's a
Haas
really,
said.
it's a really simple question, my man. Like, do you think that, like, for example, someone who transitions into a woman should be allowed to compete, with other cis women as long as they meet the weight class? Let's just
Uh,
say for
sure, why not?
Okay, that's interesting. I think that's crazy. I think that's reckless to the cis women. I think if we look at actually the science, the trans woman will have a massive advantage due to increased bone density and having
Well,
20.
does not HRT cause alterations in that as well?
Well, see, testosterone isn't. It's not like, for example, you get on like what's it called, like HRT, and then like you're just like back to baseline what a woman is. You still have the 25 years of testosterone running through your system, which is going to be again increased muscle mass. It's going to be higher bone density. It's going to be
No,
faster twitch.
my understanding is that, you could correct me on this. My understanding is that there are restrictions on when you would have had to have undergone HRT, and my understanding is that it actually causes changes fairly rapidly, like in the span of, like, I think a couple of years, if I'm not mistaken.
Do you think it negates like the 20-25 years of the fact that they're running around with way higher testosterone? Like, do you think it's kind of like a blank slate?
I mean, if you've seen a trans man after testosterone for a little while, it's really fast, like really fast.
Sure, there's some things that change. I agree with you. It's better.
Changes are rapid.
But do you think, in terms of like muscle fiber, Ganstar insulting Alex to the female guest and asking why they like ugly people? Yeah, that's the reason I banned him, is actually for self promotion. He's had multiple warnings. I told him no self promoting your channel. He did it. I said don't do it. He did it again. I said final warning, and he did it again. So yeah, that's the reason. I mean, of course, the fact that he's a massive
Oh, there we
dipshit.
go. Looks like we're coming back in.
Okay, are you good now?
Give it 5 seconds. Let's just make sure. 1, 2. Yes, I think we are back. Brilliant.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, let's go back to the discussion we're having. So, like, assuming that like the trans woman has been like 5-10 years, right?
Well,
Of
look, dude. Look, if I'd have to review. This is not something I'm super well read up on. I'm not interested in sports. But if it's the case that a trans woman, until a certain period of whatever, has a hormonal advantage, say, to cis women in sports, then either we need to reevaluate like how we partition the different classes, or there should be a threshold for like the level of treatment at which point it's fair to bring them in.
yeah, the
Um,
truth is, the trans woman will have a hormone advantage for all of her life to a cis woman.
well, that's not true. Like there are cis women
Yes,
who can beat men in fights.
sure.
There are cis women
There's
who are
exceptions
better
for every
athletes than cis men.
there,
Like
there,
there's no hard and
there's
fast rule about this.
exceptions for every rule, but
But that's what makes
testosterone.
them not a rule.
No,
The nature of a rule is that it applies as a rule.
no, but there are for every rule there are exceptions, right? Like I could say a rule,
But
generally speaking.
what decides the exception though? That's the question. So in this case, once again,
If the cis woman is a really, really good fighter and the trans woman is a really bad fighter, but all things being
yeah. So
considered,
in which
all
case,
things. Wait, just
well, no, no,
let me finish.
but in which case, like if indeed the trans woman is weaker despite having more testosterone in their system for a long part of their life, then denying them on the basis of that hormone or that hormonal history, I guess, doesn't make sense because the basis for doing so has been lost. So once again, like I think the obvious solution is just to do so according to weight class. Once again, like I'm not even of the opinion that there's strictly only two genders. I don't think gender strictly corresponds or follows from sex. I think it's an institution. I think it's something that was culturally embedded long ago, and there's nothing needful about it. So I don't like the idea of gender partition in sports simply on the basis that there are people who don't fall into those categories who may be perfectly otherwise appropriate to compete in some capacity.
All right,
You
let
know,
me please finish my statement without being interrupted. So,
I did I interrupt you? I didn't realize I was interrupting you.
yeah, quite a few times. So, the problem with that is that Yes, I do agree. Weight class is important. However, you have a 140-pound
That's
cis woman, a 140-pound trans woman.
okay.
The 140-pound trans woman has a massive biological advantage, regardless of how long she's been going to. She
Well,
got.
hang on.
Hang on, you're
Your sole point
interrupting
of
me.
reference there is
Whoa,
weight
stop,
again,
stop,
though.
stop, dude. Let me just finish, dude. Keep interrupting.
But your sole point of reference is still weight. Like that's you're not
Well,
moving.
hang on. Well, let me finish, and then you can respond to whatever the hell I
Okay.
respond. What I'm saying. So that's she will still have advantage because she got the luxury of having 20 years of testosterone in her system, which is going to give her bigger bone density, larger bone density, and it's also going to give her more
Okay.
muscle fibers. So she's going to have all kinds of advantages. Now, I will agree that those advantages will be somewhat mitigated by her getting on HRT, but they will not be completely mitigated. This has been studied to the teeth. And yeah, it's just that's kind of what it is. So it becomes unfair to the cis woman, right? It becomes to this unfair to all the cis women. If your solution is like, hey, why don't we start like a separate weight class, whatever, separate class for like trans women or something like that, that's a reasonable thing.
I'd have to refer again to like the study that Jangles did, but apparently some of the studies that are referred to make that claim are fraught. Once again, like I'd have to refer back again. This is one of the reasons
So
why I typically don't do like topical debates without preparation, because a million different things can conspire to make the better position seem false, and that works against you as well. If you want to debate this, I would be happy to set something up in the future, but I would want to have all my ducks in a row first. I didn't realize we'd be talking about trans issues here tonight.
Well, so
So
what do you think we're going to be talking about? Because when I was talking about your statements about me, you're like, I don't really want to talk about this. Now that I brought up politics, you're like, I'm not prepared for this.
no, no,
So
no,
what were
no.
you
This
what
isn't
were you
just
hoping
politics
that
though.
we would do?
Now we're getting into the weeds about something very specific. So if you want to, I'm happy to do so. But that's my policy. I always prepare for debates where there are stakes, right?
So
Because
what did
doing
you think we
poorly.
were going to debate?
No, because doing poorly in this debate has stakes for people who are not me. So what I'm not going to do is offhandedly engage in something that if I perform badly on the basis of like a failure of memory or exhaustion or anxiety or any number of different things, I'm not going to do that and become a propaganda mouthpiece for someone who's disparaging or attacking a whole group of people. I'm going to prepare first.
Dude, it seems like
I think that's reasonable.
yeah, I do think I think that in isolation that's reasonable,
Well, I
but
think
it
that's
seems
especially
like
reasonable here.
wait, stop, let
You
me
are
finish. It
specifically
seems
going after a group of people.
seems like any topic I bring up, you don't want to discuss. So I'm asking you,
Well,
what
no,
topic would you
because
be discussing?
the previous topic is actually pointless.
Okay, so what
This
did
one's
you
not.
think?
This one I would happily have a debate with you on. But once again, I'm going to want to prep for that one. This is not
What
something
did
I've discussed with
okay?
anybody in a fair bit of time. I've been focused on other things. So
What did
if you want to, I'd be happy to. But we're going to have to schedule a date.
what did you think we were going to discuss during this debate?
I have no idea. I don't watch your content. My only communication with you is I don't care about who nobody cares about this, and hey, I challenge you to a debate about what was it? Am I ideologically aligned with Andrew? Like I don't care about that. I don't think anybody alive cares about that.
So okay,
That's not
so it
important.
seems like you don't want
This topic though has stakes.
okay, it seems like you don't want to debate
I
personal
don't
things
want to.
that
No, no, no. This
you
isn't
made,
personal. It's actually no, no. You're
which
actually
are false.
misreading me
Wait, stop. Let
entirely.
me finish. Let me
No,
finish.
no.
Let me finish.
You're
Wait,
actually
hang on.
incorrect though.
Wait,
No,
hang
you
on.
said
I'm gonna
something
mute you for a
very
second. Just let
quickly.
me finish the statement.
I don't care if you
Yeah,
mute
stop
me.
interrupting me. Okay. So it seems like when I brought up the personal stuff, which are statements you made about me, you said I'm not interested. I don't want to discuss that, even though that was the whole premise. So now I'm like, okay, like I'll fucking give you a little bit and I'll move things on towards a more, political type of topic. And you're like, oh, I'm not really ready to discuss that. So once again, my question is like, what are you ready to discuss? Like you knew we were having a debate. What were you hoping we would discuss? That's my question. And I'd like to get a clear answer to this without you like just going on a tangent or like insulting me or whatever it is that you do. Go ahead.
You seem very fragile. If I push
Here we
back on
go.
something a little
Personal
bit, if
attack.
I push back on something a little bit,
Personal
no, not a
attacks.
personal attack,
All
just
you
an
got.
observation.
Can't answer the
You seem to
question.
have an extraordinarily fragile ego. It
There's
seems to
the
be extremely
personal
important to you.
attack.
It seems to be extremely important to you that your internal self-perception is echoed in everybody who talks about you.
Do
Um,
you understand how a debate works?
I'm not entirely clear you understand how a debate works.
I'm
See,
pretty sure I
what we
understand.
are having right now is an unmoderated random chat about nothing in particular, just whatever happens to come
Well,
to
because you
mind.
don't want to talk about anything, any topic I
No, no,
bring up,
no.
you're like,
But
I can't talk
here's
about
the
it.
thing, though. It's actually not a personal issue for me, which is precisely why I would be careful about it, because the stakes are not for me. If I flub that debate on that topic because I'm not prepared, that now acts as a propaganda piece against other people who now have to suffer the consequences of that. So, I will discuss that with you robustly, with moderation if you like, um, with preparation. Those are my terms. I once again think that's fairly fair. If you had insisted, like, hey, I take deep offense to this. I want to have all of my ducks in a row and insist in a debate that I am nothing like Andrew Tate and I am above him, and that my use of his face to bolster my own image, which is still baffling to me, is entirely above level. I would be bored to tears by the prospect, but I would take you up on that because I think that would be fair. I
So
think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to say.
what do you actually want to discuss? What were you hoping we would discuss during this debate?
Absolutely nothing. That's why I set a $300 rate initially on you debating me in the first place. I don't care
So
about you.
you, but you know I'm not going to pay you $300.
No, no, not
So
me, not me.
you
Well,
thought,
no, no,
wait, so you
you're
thought, so literally the
not.
list of
No, no,
topics
not
you were
me.
going with,
No,
stop,
no,
stop,
not
stop,
pay me, not pay
stop,
me.
stop,
We were
stop, stop. I don't care
fundraising.
about your editor.
Sorry,
Stop.
what?
I don't care about who it is, your editor or you, whatever, doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. So
what were the
we were
topics?
fundraising for somebody in a
What
move.
were
So
the
under those
what were
conditions, I
the
would,
topics? What were
buddy.
the topics that you were interested in discussing with me? Because it seems like
None.
literally
I
any
think you're
topic.
a
So
fragile dimwit. I'm not
so
interested in you.
you came on for this debate just to LARP around and like do
Yeah.
personal
See, look,
insults.
look. The Haas debate last night that went for 4 fucking hours. I prepared for that one because the topic is something I care about. I don't care about anything that you're interested in. You're not interesting to me.
Okay,
I am talking to you. I am talking to you.
there's nothing you're willing to
I'm
discuss.
talking to you. Well, no, I've actually been willing to discuss the other things. They're just boring, and I've noted such. In this particular case, at this point, I'm going to insist that this topic be handled carefully.
Okay, so name me one topic we can discuss tonight.
What are you interested in? I don't know.
I'm down for whatever, man.
Okay, but I don't want to talk to you. I'm talking to you because Ask Yourself said, hey, you should talk to this person, which is the only reason why I
You've been here for an hour and
yeah,
12 minutes,
yeah, and
and you're gonna make it seem
I'm
like
making
oh
way less progress in near than I thought it would be, but
I'm just
at
doing
least not
this
a total loss.
for because I have I just want to punish myself. Is that your argument?
Well,
That you're doing this
why would I talk to you? Why would I talk to you, boss? Why don't you tell me that? What's interesting
because
about you?
because I have way more clout for you, and if you actually do a good job in this debate, this could actually be beneficial to your career. I don't know if you really give
I
a
mean,
shit
I've
about
made a
me.
lot of bad decisions if that's my goal, right? Like I do not care.
So you wait, you came because I want to talk to you. I want to have this discussion. So you're saying that you came onto this debate and you didn't want to do it, but you did it anyway for some God knows what reason.
Well, sorry, I something cracked in my chest and it felt orgasmic, so I was reset for a second there. How to put this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, say that last thing you said you were going to say again. I completely lost the plot here.
So you really, really did not want to have this debate, but you did it anyway
Yeah.
for what reason?
Because we're doing an anti-Oedipus stream anyways, and I can fit it in easily, right? I put you into dead days, and I'm not doing anything. I'm just not interested in you. Moreover,
Okay,
if with all due respect, with all due respect, once again, like in your infinite wisdom, you thought it was a brilliant marketing scheme, which maybe it is to a certain kind of audience, but personally, like there are types of popularity that I would rather die than have. You thought it was a brilliant idea to be the guy who sits on his couch with, hey team, here's some great advice from suspected sex trafficker and rapist Andrew Tate.
Every time he's pressed, he just personal attacks is all he
That's
can
not
do.
a personal attack. That's a fact.
Every time. Okay, so do you realize how dumb what you're saying sounds? That you came onto this debate and you didn't want to do it, but you did it anyway because you could fit it in. You could have fit in many, many other things. You could have watched TV. You could have hung out with one of your girlfriends. There's many things you could have done. So you're going to pretend like, oh, I didn't want to do this debate anyway, but I did it anyway. And like, there's nothing I want to talk about, but there's things I can talk about. You realize how like nothing that you say makes sense.
No, I think that makes sense. I think
You think that makes sense?
I think you think you're important, and I think you're incorrect.
Did I say I thought that was important?
I think you think that I am talking to you because I'm banking, or I should be banking on growing my channel in some way. But I really don't think we have any audience
You
overlap.
literally said that
And
in your video.
I don't think the kind of people who follow you are gonna find anything of interest in my content at all.
Dude, you literally said that. Well, not with this performance. You literally said that in your video. Someone was like, "Why are you debating him?" Oh, he has like 120,000 followers, subscribers. These are your words, not mine.
Oh, did I? Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
fucking,
probably why I'm not talking to that ultimated Judeo-Christian guy instead. That might have
fucking,
been an
fucking
all things
on
considered
the
equal,
line.
or that might have been like I actually have no fucking clue. He's got like a bunch of subscribers, maybe that kind of. Okay, sure. I don't know.
So you're on here. You don't want to be here, but you're forcing yourself to be on here anyway. But
Well,
it has nothing.
I'm on my channel. I want to be here. We're doing
It has
anti-Oedipus in like
nothing
45
to
minutes.
do with
It's gonna be
like
great.
cloud or anything like that. And there's no topic that you can name that you're willing to discuss, at least at this point in time.
I'm just
Personal
not.
topics. Andrew
No,
Tate is boring.
not willing to
Friends
discuss. I'm
about
just
me are
not.
boring,
I'm just.
and anything political
No.
is
I open
time.
I open the floor to you. Like you must have more interest than just going off on.
I brought up
right?
3 topics, and you turned down every single one of them.
Well, I didn't though. I actually interrogated one with you for a little bit. We ran into a point where now we're referencing studies, and I want to actually do research first before we start making definitive statements on that in a debate. That's reasonable. That's how people who are responsible and actually care about the outcomes of the debate and aren't just doing it as like a game. That's what they do.
Okay, the only thing I can think of is because it literally seems like no topic is like you're able to talk about.
That might speak more to your lack of imagination. I can't think of anything I'd want to talk to you about because you're boring as fuck.
Right, I know you think I'm boring. Right?
I think you're extremely boring.
You just every time,
I think you're like a vanilla wafer with no ice in it.
Okay, I mean, I think you're like a soy boy who larps around the internet and pretends like he has moral virtue.
Hey, look. Insult me all you want, but do I have the voice of someone who has ingested a profound amount of soy? Like, let's be real here for a second. Everything else, maybe, but like, come on.
You have the look of a massive soy boy.
That's just mean-spirited.
Sorry, man. I mean, it kind of sucks when like you insult someone over and over again, and they like dish it back to you a little bit. Okay, but let me. I'm not really that interested in like giving you personal attacks. I'm more interested in having like some kind of discussion. Let me ask you this: what is your approximate body count?
That's my business. I don't discuss that with.
You can't. Another question you can't answer. Another question we can't talk about.
That's not your business. We can talk about that.
Nothing we can discuss. Every topic is off limits.
No, I'm just not telling you who I've had sex with. That's not your business.
Are you straight?
No.
Okay. Are you bi or gay or?
Technically pan, I guess.
What is pan?
Pan means gender and sex are not deterring factors.
So does that mean like you're equally attracted to like men as you are with women?
Nope. It just means I can be. Like there may be very strong statistical biases in either direction.
Okay. Are you
like I don't find you attractive at all. At all.
Okay, well that's good. That's good. I have a girlfriend, so I'm not interested. So when you like do hook up with men, are you top or bottom?
That is also not your business.
Okay, there we go. Another question that cannot be answered.
Yeah.
Do you primarily gravitate towards men or women?
Well, I mean, that's a complicated story.
We got time.
I want to say generally women, but yeah.
Okay. How old are you?
32. How old are you?
We're same age. I'm 33. And what do you do for work? Is this like your full-time thing, or?
It's become my full-time thing. I used to do construction and landscaping while I was finishing my BA. I do payroll now, and I've managed to make this self-sustaining. So.
Okay. Is that like through Patreon, or how do you make it self-sustaining?
Patreon ad revenue.
Okay.
Super chats, the
Uh,
usual.
yeah, I mean, ad revenue, you don't make that much money on that. Neither do I. I'm not trying to insult you. So it's got to be primarily Patreon, I would assume.
Uh, Not so much actually. Recently, it's been ad revenue and super chats. I prefer it to be Patreon more. It's more stable.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Okay, interesting. Where do you see your channel in 5 years?
5 years. God, I have no idea.
Well, where,
I'd like to really focus more on the like the hard political content and do essays and stuff. The people in like the DGG sphere are just they're just boring. Nobody has anything interesting to say. They're all just kind of imitating each other. It's not fun.
seems like you think like literally everyone is boring. What content creator do you respect?
Recently I've been really into Cass Eris's work. Her stuff is fantastic.
Not familiar.
Um, who else am I thinking? Cut Philosophy's gone a little bit lethargic lately. His stuff's okay sometimes. I've been appreciating Dylan Burns' Ukraine coverage. Uh,
Whose coverage? Say that again.
Dylan Burns, you know who that is?
No, I'm not familiar.
Oh well, he's pretty. He's got issues sometimes, but I think he's a pretty cool guy overall. And he stopped doing drama content, or at least took a big break from it, to actually fly to Ukraine and start documenting just stuff. Like he's a younger guy and he's cutting his chops in actual real war journalism. It's actually been pretty cool to see.
Okay, that sounds pretty cool. I would agree with you on that. Um, so my chat keeps asking this question.
Sure.
Are you into the cuckold thing?
No.
Okay.
Are you?
No, not at all. Uh,
Too bad.
yeah, why is that too bad?
No, no. You should keep your horizons broad.
Yeah, doesn't that same logic apply to you?
My horizons are very broad.
Okay.
That's one of those acceptance for me. I'm otherwise very open minded.
What are some other things like that you're open minded to that you're that the average person is not?
Have we seen these things before?
Snails. Snails are actually surprisingly good if you can make them properly.
Is that a sexual thing for you? I don't understand.
No, escargot, my dude.
Oh yeah, yeah. I like snails. They're good.
They're speaking.
Also, apparently, and I can't verify this. You know, there's like Buddha statues with curly hair.
Not familiar with
No,
that.
like
But
I think they usually come in like kind of like a green sort of coppery look. They've got like the weird kind of pointy like curly looking hair on the top.
I don't know.
Oh. Somebody said they were snails. Apparently, there was some kind of story about that.
Are you religious?
I used to be. I'm not really sure now.
Okay, so you're like agnostic.
Something like that.
Okay, we agree on that. Um, let me see what else I can ask you that would be interesting.
Oh, am I inaudible, guys? Hang on. Apparently, I'm really quiet. I'm really quiet. Look at that. Why am I so quiet? Here, let me boost my audio a tiny bit. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. Chat, can you hear me better now? All right.
You have any questions for me?
If you were me, what questions would you ask?
I don't know. I feel like I would like actually engage with the stuff that I've been saying and like try to have like intellectual discussion instead of going into this with a narrative.
Do you like any books or movies or games or anything?
A bit late for that now, my man. But yeah,
Art.
I do like books. I like movies. Sure, I like all that stuff.
Yeah, but like what kinds? What are you into? Like what are you interested in? Like what stuff are you interested in besides like telling random people how to find fuck buddies on the internet? Like what are you interested in?
There's a bunch of things I'm interested in. I'm interested in self development, so I like the book Psycho-Cybernetics. I like the book The Winner Effect.
Cybernetics. What's that about?
It talks about your inner self image and how that affects every area of your life. It's a very good book. I recommend you check it out. It's by Maxwell Maltz. I like the book The Rise of Superman. It also talks about the science of flow states. Right now, I'm reading 48 Laws of Power. It seems like a really good book so far. I also like some fantasy stuff like Game of Thrones or Ender's Game and stuff like that.
Ender's Game. I like Ender's Game. Have you read The Three Body Problem?
The what? Say that again.
The three body problem.
No.
Oh,
What is that?
if you've enjoyed Ender's Game, you have to read the three body problem. It's
Is that
amazing.
written by the same author or?
No. It's by a Chinese author called I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but Cixin Liu, so Cixin and then Liu. And it's well, it spans like a very long time. It's a trilogy of books actually. But the initial premise is, um, during the Cultural Revolution, China makes contact with alien. Not during the Cultural Revolution. Sorry, after the Cultural Revolution, China makes contact with an alien species that is going to invade in however many decades, and it's really smart, really interesting. If you're interested in stuff like around like ecology and whatnot as well, it deals a lot with that.
Okay, I'll look into that. Hey, let me ask you this. This is gonna be a more interesting question for the chat. What was the cause of your whatever expose on Kyla? It seems like on when it comes to like policy, you guys would agree on a lot of things. So I'm just curious.
Well, maybe a little less than you might think, but the main reason would be that she was fluffing up her credentials to an audience that doesn't know the difference between these different kinds of things, in order to make fairly irresponsible statements about the consensus in psychology, say, towards certain things regarding like IQ as a determiner of human potential, stuff like that, as well as to give advice on things about human sexuality, emotions, the genetic basis of political alignment, things like that, and to give advice on choosing therapists and psychiatrists for a fee when that's well outside of her field. So that's why essentially. And then in the course of doing so, she also is contradictory and inconsistent and misleading about what her credentials actually are. That's literally the extent of it. I have no other interest in her besides that.
Okay. In my opinion, seems like a very nitpicky type of thing. She misspoke in one stream, and then she
That's
corrected
not
herself.
true though. She actually typed it out as well, and she said that she had a graduate degree, which she does not have. That's actually fairly distinct. And once again, like that is secondary. She is incorrect about her credentials. She's been extremely misleading about that. But what I'm interested in specifically is the end to which she's putting that. The reason why that matters is because she's giving bad advice or dangerous advice, or is giving advice she's not in a position, or selling advice rather, she's not in a position to be authoritative on, while giving the impression that she is. That's
Okay.
that's I think is very irresponsible. So like, and another example would be someone like Dr. K. He's got doctor in his name. Sells himself as somebody who is a good representation of his field. Will go on to stream and will host quasi therapy sessions, or in a fairly irresponsible
Have we
manner,
seen these
or
things before?
more egregiously, will say things to the effect of like, "Oh, look, we found traditional medicinal ways to fight cancer, and things like depression don't exist, and yada yada yada." And it's just it's using credentials in a way that's fairly irresponsible to give the impression to lay people who don't know the difference that, hey, this is actually the truth of the matter. Don't investigate this any further. I don't like that. That rubs me the wrong way.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think you could make a solid argument for the stuff that you're saying. I
Yep.
haven't really looked into any of that,
Yeah.
so I can't,
Well, there you
confirm
go.
or
That's
deny.
fine. I'm not going to press you on that for the same reason. I'm not going to make you have to defend a statement or a position that you're not prepared to do so. Which doesn't mean you're wrong, by the way. It just means you haven't had time to actually like, get all of your weapons loaded, that kind of thing.
Yeah, okay. How many videos did you make on Kyla? I felt like it was like quite a few videos.
Recently it was 3, and it was one making the initial claim. I withheld some stuff. Pisco jumped the gun on that, and she signed off on that. So I unleashed a few other things in that one, and then she made an hour and a half long video that was extremely misrepresenting of my actual arguments, and so I responded to that. Prior to that, I have a couple of stream segments where I watch stuff that she does, and I've disagreed with her, and I've mentioned some things in the past, sort of to that effect, not quite as strongly. I think not quite as strongly.
Okay. Do you think you're gonna debate her at some point?
No, I don't see any particular reason to. My
Well,
issue with her is with her use of her credentials. It's not an intellectual disagreement. If once again, if she was upfront about either of these two things, if she was speaking to her domain or making sure that she was not selling herself as being competent in the domain that she's not in, or qualified in the domain that she's not in, it would just be somebody else with an opinion to disagree with, and it'd be neither here nor there. Because there's a lot of people who have her positions, right? It's not the positions themselves that are the distinguishing feature of this case.
I think her response, it was a few months ago that I watched it, or maybe a few weeks, whatever.
It
I
would have
think
been a
her
few weeks.
Yeah, a few weeks. I think her response to that was, he's taking stuff I say out of context, that I just misspoke in one stream, but
Yeah,
I have
but
been
the problem is she didn't just misspeak in one stream. She has been she stated this stuff in multiple spaces in a contradictory fashion. She's outright written that she has a graduate degree, not a diploma. This is a big difference, by the way. It's not just a matter of like how much time you spend in
not yet.
school either.
But you don't think that could be an interesting debate?
No, I don't see any reason to debate it. The fact of the case is essentially established, and in her video response, which I already responded to, and I see no reason once again to spend another exhausting few hours on it. She had to resort to making up arguments that I didn't make in order to give the impression of like a thorough debunking, when in fact no such thing took place. I've already like canvassed this extensively. We've gone like 4 hours with Pisco on this. I've done 3 videos. Like, there's just nothing else to say on this issue.
Yeah, man. I literally feel like any issue I bring up is like kind of a closed door.
No, I didn't say
What
we can
is it?
stop. I'm just saying like especially since like you haven't like looked into it yet, which is fair. I wouldn't expect you to. No insult to you. Like it's I don't know why you in particular would be interested in this. There's just not a whole lot to talk about. I think if you want to keep on talking about it, you can.
Why would I be interested? Oh, I don't know. Kyla's a friend of mine. I, trust her.
No, I think you're the kind of person she makes friends with. I'm not surprised.
What's the status of your debate with Destiny? Weren't you guys supposed to do something?
Oh, he ghosted that one.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I'll have
do
to.
Do you know about that already, or why are you asking? Just out of curiosity.
No, I have no idea. Yeah, I
Okay,
don't know.
well, essentially, we if you want to know the story, it's not super long or interesting.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so me and some friends, we were streaming a review of his Keffel's Manifesto, I think. He decided to start streaming it as well. He started like lighting up other people in the stream, so I just called him. I was like, I appreciate you don't do that. We ended up having a long conversation. The topic went to why do you think you can't have positive or productive conversations with people on the left? And one of the things he cited was the overwhelming number of professors and staff that are being like pushed out of universities and institutions by the woke mob.
Yeah,
And I said that's not my experience. Why don't we take some time to research this, actually look at the data, and then we'll come back once we're prepared and we'll actually hash this out. And he agreed, and we spent. He provided a list of examples that his community had dug up. It's a long Reddit list with a lot of citations. I actually really appreciated the work they did, and we went through them. And we went through all the stuff. We interviewed people who were involved in some of them. And when push came to shove, he started looking over my coverage because I had condensed it for him in a couple of videos. And he just went silent when he realized two things, which he had to have. The first is that the initial statement that he had an overwhelming number of examples of these people getting pushed out was wrong, because the maximum number he actually was able to come up with the help of hundreds and hundreds of people in his audience was something to the tune of like 8 or 10. And none of them really held water. He went through a bit of the Evergreen case. We actually found some new information about that one, which I can't reveal because a friend of mine did. He wants to do content on it. But that in particular ended up being a lie, because the implication of an overwhelming number is, I've seen this is evidence I already have, whether or not it's verified. And then secondly, none of the cases, again, held water, so it would have just been a bloodbath. Because it would have just been like, hey, not only were you completely wrong, as we've gone through your data and we've seen that, no, in each of these cases that's not what took place, but secondly, you actually lied when you said you had an overwhelming number of cases to draw upon to justify this statement. And he just disappeared, went silent. Just
okay.
blocked. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if though, if we're being like good faith, if it was that he saw your research and he got intimidated and wanted to back
Well,
out,
he started researching it already, and it
or
was
he
only
simply
yeah,
no, I know,
yeah.
but or simply he forgot to respond. Because I know with Destiny with me, like we're
Oh,
friends.
he definitely did not
Sometimes
forget to
wait,
respond.
my man, you gotta let me finish. Sometimes he just straight up like doesn't respond for like weeks, right? And I'll be like,
Yeah,
"Yo, what's going on, man?" And he's
sure.
like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry." But yeah, I'm debating him tomorrow. I'll bring this up because I think that'll be a fun debate.
Well,
So
why don't you go over some of my videos on it? The whole thing's documented. We spent a solid 17 or so hours on stream going over the cases one by one. We had interviews with people who were involved, and I condensed it all for his benefit, and he watched it on stream. And he challenged my interpretation of some of the emails, for example. I think rather badly, but that's beside the point. He spent hours on stream actually starting the research. It
yeah,
was lazy research. His strategy for the Evergreen case was to look at a bunch of Ben Boyce documentaries, but he definitely was taking it seriously enough to spend an entire stream on, and it was only after that that he just
yeah.
silented the rage.
In all honesty, I'm just too busy to go through like detailed streams like that. But
Sure.
yeah, I'll have a
Well,
discussion.
the last one on that topic outlines what went down. It has all the links in the description, and that would give you a fair post-mortem of the whole event.
Okay, yeah, if it's quick, I
It's
take a
called
look at that.
To the Coward Stephen Bennell II. I can link it to
Hey,
you afterwards.
do you mind? A few people in my chat want to
Yeah.
ask you questions. Do you mind if I bring them on?
Do you bring them on?
Yeah, they just want to ask you.
Depends on who they are. I'm not particularly keen to have like an ambush with a bunch of DGG people
No,
I've
no,
already spent hours
I'll do
talking
one
to.
person at a time, and I'll tell them to keep it respectful. They just want to ask you questions. Nothing like crazy.
For 20 minutes because I have an anti-Oedipus thing at 7. But yeah, sure.
Okay, we can go for 20 minutes. All right, let's bring on Michael J. So yeah, guys, let's keep it respectful. Even though this debate got heated at times, let's keep it respectful. What's up, Michael?
Hey, Michael, how you doing?
Michael,
Hello, can you guys hear me?
yeah, we can
A
hear
little
you.
bit.
Okay.
You're a little bit choppy. Just a heads up.
All right, let me try this.
Oh no, you sound good now. You sound good now.
All right, sorry.
You're
Perfect.
good.
All right, so President Sunday, I've watched your content for quite a bit now, and well, my first question is, I believe you're friends with Max Carson or something.
No,
Mr.
I'm not.
Girl?
I'm not friends with Max Carson.
Oh, you're. But you guys do sort of align as far as like being against Destiny, right?
Not really. No. My issues with Destiny are different from Max's. I think, except
But-
for the Fuentes thing. I think that's the only time we've ever aligned in our critiques. Max is like on this weird obsessive thing about Destiny being socially abusive to people. I don't know anything about that or care. Well, I would if there was anything to substantiate that. I don't really see it.
Okay.
Outside of the obvious Twitter stuff, but that's documentary at this point.
What do you mean, obvious Twitter stuff? What do you mean? If you can
Oh,
explain
just
that.
like he's got like a backlog of like, just really callous statements towards people on Twitter. Being
It's like
sort of
Islamophobia and stuff. Is that what you're?
Xenophobia?
Islamophobia.
Oh, I haven't
is that
followed
what-
that. That's recent. No, I'm talking about just stuff like
Okay.
statements he's made towards Doe. Just I can't remember the top of my head. He's probably said something about so and so being like subhuman or whatever. I don't know. It's been a little
So
while.
your only issue with Destiny is that you don't agree with him as far as like him just like backing out of a debate and
No,
I
no.
guess
My,
the
my,
other
my
one is-
issue my issue with Destiny is that he will say things that are challenged as if they have not been challenged
Okay.
opportunistically, and the debate is just a clear example of this. This is the one clear case where there was a specific thesis that he agreed to be interrogated on. He was given a tremendous amount of time and resources to prepare himself for it. I was very transparent about like what I was looking through, et cetera, and he ghosted on that. That just told me that he was not serious about actually interrogating the stuff, and he was engaging with it very cynically.
But that would be different from backing out. It's supposed to like ghosting you and backing out. There's two different things. Because you did call him like a right wing grifter. Or something.
That was later. Backing out would be, hey, I'm not interested in this debate anymore. We're going to cancel it. That would be one thing. He didn't do that. He just ghosted. He went silent, and I did.
Well, you guys-
he was made aware of this, right? So
You guys did have a panel together where you did not bother to bring this up or press him on those things.
Yes, I did.
What
I did though.
of that particular,
Yeah,
the whole controversy with the
it was
professor and
brought
stuff?
up. It was brought up fairly. You're talking about the recent one on Wix channel, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I did bring it up. It was ham-fistedly put in because there wasn't really an organic way to do so, but it was brought up.
Well, you brought up the fact that the debate did not take place. You did not bring up the specific, topics.
Well,
of those things to talk
I
about.
didn't start the panel wasn't about that. I didn't start like listing off our sources, but I did describe the reasons why that didn't end up happening. I did describe the research that we did, and
Okay.
the fact that it was agreed upon. So that was brought up.
Yeah, you didn't seem to partake that much in that particular debate. You seem to be more like sitting back and like allowing the conversation to go on. So I don't know if you felt.
Well,
the same
not
way.
really.
That was my
I
impression.
actually had like a pre-written statement for the intro that I took actually fairly seriously. The debate topic had to do with, if memory serves, is the left to blame for the rise of the right, and I had a fairly critical answer to that, namely, we need to be very careful about who it is that we're even talking about in the first place, and what actually are the consequences of sort of assigning like rigid, undermotivated distinctions to these categories when we're trying to make a judgment about it. I actually wrote that out and had people like vet it, and I timed it so it would fit. And I was actually having a very serious discussion about that. People weren't having any of it because it's just inconvenient to have to scrutinize what we mean by right and left when we want to just get to the meat of like the transes are being too revolting and it's causing people to turn into conservatives, which is
No, I got you. I got you on that. So, well, you do call Destiny a liberal, but not a leftist. You call them a right wing grifter or something like that.
Yeah, he
Can you
grifts off.
maybe
He
explain
grifts.
what?
He grifts off the right wing. He curates his language and his positions so that he's attractive as the slim end of the wedge for a bunch of Keith Fuentes light types, who will then swarm him because they're hopeful that, hey, this is our chance to get access to a larger audience. It's pretty transparently what he's doing.
But
he's
could
not
be-
he's not like having chicken and waffles with Nick Fuentes to appeal to a moderate base, right?
But could that not be in an attempt to like change the minds of those followers who he perceives to be like going down the wrong path? Like in a way, seem like he's been friendly towards him to like
Well,
pull
one of
them
the
over
things
to his side.
one of the things you wouldn't do in that case is you wouldn't give, for example, people who have already been ridiculed within the right wing, like Nick Fuentes, because at that point he was basically a non-entity. You wouldn't be giving them an opportunity to sell themselves and their charisma alone in just like little public hangouts. So like inviting him to his bedroom to just have a chit chat, going out for din-dins at like a chicken and waffles place. That isn't challenging him. That's just allowing him to look fun.
But if that were not, let's say, your approach, what would be your approach? Because like Destiny did mention he did not want to come across as like too hostile to that community because like he doesn't
Yeah, I
always
know he
want to
does.
be like the
That's
left.
that's what I'm saying. What would my approach be?
Right, when it came to like dealing with right wingers. Because I've not seen you like debate a right wing at all. Like Alex brings on a lot of right wingers.
No, I would
You never,
Oh, no, I would absolutely debate a right winger. But I would do so. I would do so on a specific thesis with like specific research. And if I was in a situation where randomly I was talking to one, or if I was in a situation where like I was at a dinner with one and we were on camera, I would absolutely make sure that I was challenging him on the issues for which he was known.
No, I'm talking about like an open panel. An open panel, like say Alex sometimes has those, where Erudite hops on or whatever.
Sure.
I know you guys may not get along, whatever, you and Erudite, but I'm saying like one of those.
Well,
same, hop on,
same deal. Like I wouldn't be frivolous about what panels I'm on in the first place. When you have a following of that size, like you direct a lot of audience flow to people who manage to associate with you. That's why panels are so excited to have large streamers on. That gives like a very serious monetary advantage potentially to people who are going to use that and the increased exposure to motivate a whole bunch of people to engage in some really toxic stuff. So it would differ as the situation occurs, right? Like it depends on who it is, whether or not you think you can like soundly come off as the better debater between the two, or whether
that just
you can
seems
make your
like
case strongly.
a pretext for like ruling out any possible interaction with right wingers.
Well, no, I've actually just given conditions.
I don't know if he's saying that, honestly. Well, we can just ask him. President Sunday, would you be open to doing a panel with like some right wingers, some people in the middle?
Like
DPS, depending on the topic, if I trusted the moderator, and depending on the on like who it was, like in terms of preparation.
No, I mean that's
and by to be clear, like depending on the moderator doesn't mean like it has to be someone who's partisan to my side. Like if I haven't seen Big Papa Fascist, for example. I've been told by some people that he's a fairly neutral and solid moderator, if he could do a good job, and I was confident that I could make a fair representation of my case within the time given, I would absolutely consider it.
No, I think that's fair. I mean, I'm kind of the same way, in all honesty. Like, I need to somewhat trust the moderating if I'm going to someone else's channel.
I mean, I used to be right wing, by the way. Like, I'm not. I wasn't left wing for
Yeah,
very long.
that was my next question, actually.
Yeah.
So do most people on the left. Michael, just one last question. I want to get one more person on before we wrap up. Because
Okay, yeah. Just to get before I get to my next, and just to clarify, what I meant is like, you know, for Alex to somehow like moderate, and you and Big Papa Fashion or whatever, like have a, because you guys seem to be like pretty good debaters, and that's what
I don't think President Sunday trusts me.
Okay, fair enough.
Oh, you to moderate? I think I've got some issues with what I've seen of you so far. But I think even just now, like that was a fair intervention you made, and I don't think you had any particular prejudice reason to be fair to me. So that speaks to your favor as a moderator.
Okay, and my last question, you did mention about like shifting from like left wing to right, no, from right to left. What actually happened? What changed your mind? And what like
that's
let you there?
That's a long story. But the short of it is, I as someone
like the main key points,
as someone who's fairly conservative, I was actually fairly aggressively so, and I tried to figure out how to basically do what a lot of people do, concern trolling now, where I would try to figure out the positions of my ideological opposition like really robustly, in order to find ways in which to undermine them sort of from on site, as it were. And as a result of doing so, I educated myself massively, and I realized that my position was not as well-founded as I thought it was before. And that sort of began a long process of introspection and research, and just as I educated myself, I moved more in this direction. It corresponds directly to my educational history.
Okay. So, and just to be sure, when you say research,
I mean something very general. I just mean I read more, I spoke to more people, I learned more. I just got better educated over time.
Yeah, because my counter to that would have been, like the left wing seems to be more in control of academia, a lot more of the research papers and things like that.
Michael, I want to get the next person on.
Fair enough.
We don't have too much time, but thanks for coming on, buddy.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, Alex.
Have a good one, man. All right, let's bring on one more person. This guy.
Yeah, you're okay with it just being one more person, because I have somebody else waiting for me in 10 minutes.
Yeah, okay. For sure. One more person, and we'll wrap up. This guy's quite the character. All right, Spicoli, what's up, buddy?
Hello, gentlemen. Hi, Alex. Thanks for bringing me on.
I didn't catch your name. I'm sorry.
Spicoli.
Spicoli. Sounds Italian.
Yeah. It is. Ever see the movie Fast Times at Ridgemont High with Sean Penn?
I haven't.
I'm sure
good?
They called me Spicoli. Obviously, that's not my real name, because I smoke more weed than Spicoli does in a day. How about that? Okay. So, I applaud you, Sunday. I say Sunday for short, from moving over from a right-wing position to a left-wing position. And I want to preface this. Alex probably knows this, but you don't. I want to preface this by saying that I was and still am a 40 plus year member of the Democratic Party. Okay. Now, even though I have not voted in the two last elections, because I don't believe in voting for the lesser of two evils, so I didn't vote. Otherwise, I always voted, and I was always much voting Democrat. I don't think I ever voted for a Republican in my life. But consequently, over the last, let's say, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, I didn't leave the Democratic Party, Sunday. They left me. And while I applaud you from moving from the right to the left, I believe you and others who, if they are woke, have moved a little bit too far to the left, in my opinion. Now, before you say anything, and just give me two issues I want to discuss really quickly, then you could rebut, and I will get high while you rebut.
Okay, just be advised though very carefully. I literally have like 10 or so minutes Like probably really 9 minutes. Okay.
It won't even take. I speak fast.
Okay, you just probably won't have time to get high though. Is the thing, right?
Okay. Here's the thing. First of all, gender studies, which really you claim there's multiple genders. Blah 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 blah. Okay.
Sure.
To me, I say there's 2 genders, but whether you're male or female, there is a spectrum to how much male or female you have into you. Now,
wait, so sex is a spectrum, but gender isn't? That's an interesting.
No, wait. What did we say? Don't say. I promise. Don't say anything until I'm finished.
Okay.
Please.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
You're right. You're right. Continue.
Okay. Here's my point. Where did that come up with? Who came up with that? Maybe you know. Maybe you don't. It was a man named John Money in the '60s. And why? Because what happened was there were 2 twin boys that happened to be born.
Yeah, I'm familiar with this. No, I'm familiar with this though. That you can save time. Like I know the story.
You know the story, but others may not. That's why I'm saying it. So what happened was John Money decided one boy was circumcised and they accidentally cut off too much penis, and so John Money and the surgeons decided, why don't we turn this little boy into a girl, and since gender is a social construction, we'll raise him as a girl. So consequently, he was raised as a girl. When he found out that he really wasn't a girl, he happened to delete himself. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, his brother also deleted himself later in life, and these guys were like around 35 or 40 when they did it. Number 1. Okay. Number 2, critical race theory.
It's a little bit more complicated than that. It wasn't just no, but it is important because you're interested in making sure people know the story, right?
Go ahead.
So it's not that he found out he wasn't a girl, so they tried to raise him as a girl, and that caused him immense psychological harm.
I did say that. They tried to raise him as a girl.
Oh, did you? Okay, well, I missed it. My apologies. Continue.
They tried to raise him as a girl because his genitalia was all messed up. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
But now, let's go on to critical race theory. Folks, another big topic. That's gender and critical race theory are the 2 biggest woke topics. Now, critical race theory, where did that come from? Well, there was a Harvard, I think, or Harvard law professor named Derek Bell, by his own admission, folks. He was brought in as a Harvard law professor, the first one, and he will agree because of action.
We're running on limited time. Can you get to?
I'm going to wrap it up. So all this critical race theory started off in Harvard Law School, and now it's permeated to the point where it's taught to little kids in school about you know what, and it was never even meant to be taught to elementary school kids.
Are they teaching?
I'm done talking. I'm done talking.
Are they teaching little kids critical race theory in schools? Like, critical race theory is something pretty particular. It's not just, hey, you should be mindful of the different experiences of other people historically or things like that when you're talking to them or like making comments on certain things. It's like a very specific thing. It's concerned with a critical analysis of history and institutions in the light of the history of institutional, like very explicitly institutional racism in the United States and in the English-speaking world in particular, but also elsewhere, as well as like more subtly how institutions and our thought processes are inflected by the fact that we sort of we have taken race as a category of person on board as like a perfectly obvious and valid way to categorize people. And to assign qualities of things to them. Like that's...
Let me make a point. How come when I was brought up during Martin Luther King time in the 70s and stuff, up until the woke people started mentioning all this race stuff, I lived personally in a colorblind world, and I believe racism exists, but it doesn't exist systematically. And you know what? I'll prove my point. Most of these white people and black people that are preaching critical race theory, guess what they are? They tend to be middle and upper middle class people, and they don't experience a lot of race problems. Now, are there black youth that are pulled over by cops and shot occasionally because they're black and targeted? Yes. Why? Because
we're opening, with all due respect, we're opening up
in the black community
hang on.
because of single mommies. Go ahead.
We're opening up a can of worms here that we don't have time to talk about. Let's go back very quickly to the previous thing. So I think that's more interesting. That's something we can probably wrap up. I can give it about like 5 more minutes, Alex. So we can wrap that up probably a little bit faster. So it's interesting.
Maybe we can bring you back.
Let him talk.
Right. So refresh me very quickly and try to be very quick because again we're very short on time. So you think that sex is a spectrum, but not gender? That's interesting. Why do you think so?
Why do I think sex is? First of all, I'll tell you why. I believe that I believe sex and gender are two of the same things, and I believe that basically gender is just a word. If you get right down to the basics. Wait, listen. You asked me what I believe.
Okay.
I believe.
No, but you don't need to give a brave. We can have just a conversation, right? Like just back and forth. It doesn't need to be like a big speech every single time. No one's beating you, right? Yeah. So the reason why I'm bringing this up though is because like the Dr. Money case is a case where somebody's arbitrary gender realignment by a doctor didn't correspond to their actual gender, and that's why they suffered psychic harm as a result of that. But on the flip side, there are people who actually experience the same psychic harm if that doesn't happen. So I think what's actually at play here, and this doesn't really speak to whether or not either of these things are a spectrum, except for the fact that a doctor can't arbitrarily decide on the basis of external characteristics what gender a person is on the basis of sex or genital state or whatever. What that really speaks to is that gender dysphoria is actually a very like serious psychological issue, and it is not simply acculturated, right? Because this person experienced it in like despite being raised as per their appearance from very early on.
Well, my point is, I agree 100% with you. Yeah. But let me tell you this. But in what percentage of cases are people actually born into the wrong body? And let me follow through with this. Do you think that either evolution or that God puts people in the wrong bodies? Or do you think maybe those people are in the right bodies, but their thinking and their brains are wrong?
Well, I think,
and if it does affect people, it only affects.
Okay. Let's calm down a little bit. So I think saying that they're put in the wrong bodies is a bit of an oversimplification. Sometimes people talk about it that way, but what it really is people have sexual characteristics that run seriously contrary to their self-perception in some fairly deep ways. And as a result of that, that causes a severe psychological and emotional dissonance that some people find extraordinarily painful. And the solution to that is to ameliorate that by causing those features, either folding them into an aesthetic that sort of contradicts them, and contradicts like the social role that they would slot you into on that basis. Like one of the things that Dr. Money does that was really harmful with respect to that kid is he assumed that you could just brute force someone into a social role on the basis of physical characteristics. That's clearly not true. Similarly, like doctors will assign gender, and people will make assumptions about like their appropriate social role, the kinds of toys they should play with, the kinds of jobs they should do, the kinds of rights they should have, whether or not they should be defended or defenders or something like that, whether they should be treated, expected to be passive or aggressive or things on that sort, on exactly the same basis. They have so-and-so organs or lack thereof, and therefore this is who they are on a deep personal level. That's what's at stake there. It's not that like anyone's contending that evolution made a mistake, but like the way in which human beings are born and develop is very chaotic. It has a whole bunch of different subtle and not so subtle influences, and they can result in a situation which somebody's physical characteristics is at odds with what actually is psychologically healthy for them to have. Does that make sense?
You know what? I agree with you, but you know what's really at stake, Sunday?
Yeah.
What's at stake is when you take young people in particular, and they don't really have a full brain developed, okay, hear me out, and you do things to them that may permanently sterilize them or change their sex for good. And let me ask you this. What is easier to do?
Well, let's do one thing. Let's do one thing at a time. Let's take that one. No, hang on. No, but that's a big one though. And this is going to be the last one because I don't have time to address like another point in addition.
I have one more question.
I know, but I don't know. I don't listen to me. I respect that, but I don't have time for that one. So I'm going to address the first thing you said. Okay.
You'll have to come back.
Sure. Kill me. But sure. So, with respect to the first thing,
and we're talking about kids here. Kids.
We are like, and for example, we we allow kids to get vaccines, we allow them to get surgeries, et cetera. And we know for a fact, the studies have borne this out, that kids who go through puberty, who are still undergoing, by the way, like permanent biological physiognomical changes, albeit directed solely by the blind forces of nature, irrespective of their psychical health, we are doing all these things anyways. It's not a neutral position to force somebody to undergo a specific kind of puberty by denying a treatment that already exists. An analogy might be, especially given, like, we're not just talking about mild discomfort here. We're talking about the kind of psychical damage that causes people to commit suicide at a massive rate. This is why 49% jokes are a thing that transphobes will feel, because
really? Then how come all these kids
a
were
massive
never
amount of
committing?
self-harm
How
in those
come none of
communities,
them
of
were?
the psychic damage that results from those situations,
Oh,
right? So, like, for example, like a
you're
trans...
wrong, because
No,
no
but
one
hang
was
on.
committing suicide.
I'm almost done, I promise. So, contrary to what our generous host has indicated, I'm actually not as soy as a lot of trans women would like to look. So if somebody's forced to go through puberty and ends up looking like me, to then have to try to pass with the social expectations of today as a woman becomes extraordinarily difficult. If you allow somebody to go onto puberty blockers, they can delay the process. They can then make a choice once they are better informed and they're more sure of who they are and how they want to express themselves. If you force them to go through puberty by not allowing them access to that kind of treatment, they don't have that choice anymore, and that can cause a lot of damage. Right? That's unhealthy for them psychologically.
Alex, you have to let me one more. Alex, please, I gotta finish. Okay. Then what about please, Alex? I have to.
I gotta run, Alex. If he wants to take 5 seconds,
he doesn't have it right. I'm gonna prove him wrong, because look at Jeff Jennings.
Wait, stop. How long is your statement? Is it like 10 seconds? Is it 2 minutes?
20 seconds. 20 seconds.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay, look at Jess Jennings. They put her on puberty blockers. Her penis never developed fully. So when she turned 18 or 20 and wanted to become a full woman, they did not have enough penis material.
Yeah. So there are treatments for that, though. No, but
and they had to use a rectum.
I know you're very. I know you're very angry, but, like, they have treatments for that, right? So one of the things that they do is they will apply things like topical testosterone in order to make sure that these things grow in proportion to age. Like, these aren't like things that there are no solutions towards. It's an evolving field. Treatments are getting better over time.
They're experimenting on these kids. Are there long?
Right,
There's no long-term reports. Sorry.
I'm gonna close it out with closing statements. Do you want to make a closing statement, President Sunday?
No, I think I've made my point. I'm good.
Do you want to say that?
I'm just gonna make a quick closing statement.
Wait, buddy, you gotta chill. Do you want to stay while I make my closing statement, or you gotta dip?
Do you want to make a closing statement?
I'm gonna make a closing statement, but
well, you're just gonna be talking to your audience, and I don't really have any particular desire to argue with the beginning of the conversation any further with you.
I wasn't sure if you wanted to respond to that.
No, not particularly. I have people waiting for an anti-venomous stream. I will say this very quickly, though. All the other stuff aside, especially like here, for example, I would say that I think you're actually a fairly competent moderator, and I did appreciate your impartiality and fairness in these questions. Granted, there weren't very many of them, but I don't have any particular issue with you personally. It was the undermotivated nature of the conversation and the fact that we're talking about something that to me seems petty. You may disagree. That is the explanation for the, shall we say, the lackadaisical nature of the earlier part of our conversation. So I don't have any hard feelings towards you. I think I strongly disagree with, like, the judgment behind some of the things that you do, but I don't know you again. So if you're like a happy, well-adjusted guy and we just have some ideological disagreements, I'm happy for you. That's about it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna address what you said in my closing statement, but you gotta dip. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming on, and no hard feelings between you and I.
I gotta meet you. Just let me.
No, it's okay. It's okay. That's fine. He's being friendly. Have a good night, Piccoli. Take care, guys.
Sorry, President Sunday. So I was gonna say, appreciate you coming on. It got quite heated at times, but hey, you're better than the guys who don't want to come on. So yeah, but yeah, no hard feelings towards you. Let's maybe do this again at some point in the future.
Yeah, maybe. Take care. Have a good night.
All right. Have a good one.
Well, that was a thing. Let me see what Brooks is doing. All right, I'm going to run to the washroom. We'll be back in a little bit. And hopefully Brooks will be ready, and hopefully my food's not frozen. And we're going to be doing some more anti-Oedipus, which, thank God, I won't have to talk for a little bit. Oh, good, so he's having dinner. Sounds good. So we'll be back in, like, 15 minutes or so go grab coffee or whatever. All right. I'll be right back, folks. we're calling Brooks. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I spent the afternoon and evening out with my son doing lots of fun shit, so
nice. We can do whatever you want. We can go over anti-abyss if you're tired. I know for a fact I'm exhausted. We can just chat and do a post-mortem of the last couple of days. It's up to you.
I mean, I'm easy. So let's talk through it for a second then.
Sure.
We have two options for AO.
Yeah.
We read most of the first section about talking about desiring machines and how they operate.
Yeah.
They then lead directly into the BWO, which is a horrifyingly difficult concept and thing to go through. More fun and I think more appropriate, especially given the discussions you actually had last night, is skipping ahead a little bit and maybe not doing things in order and talking about their essay called The Whole and Its Parts, where they talk about how the parts produce the whole, but the whole is itself a part alongside other parts.
But how many holes are there?
The whole.
Okay. I was making a Haas joke.
That's, yeah, I know.
Okay. Sorry.
No. It's he's worth a few of them. Or we could just shoot the shit about Haas and like go over that.
Can I be honest with you? Like, after the last two nights, I'm gonna be like, I'm game to just chat about the last couple of nights, and I'd be happy to do Anti-Oedipus tomorrow if chat won't kill me for it.
I'm fine with that.
You want to do that? And then
I'm down for whatever you may see
guys,
as
you
as
get
good.
an extra stream.
I'm happy to be around tomorrow. It's easy.
Let's do that. Okay.
It is as you desire. I owe you at this point after, and I will always, by the way, forever believe taking 100% of good faith, always. And I know it's painful. I know it sucks, but still, sorry.
Oh, it's all good. Last night was horrible. Just physically. Like,
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
yeah. That was probably the worst. I think it was definitely my worst debate performance. I don't entirely fault myself for it because I had fucking nothing to latch onto. Like, nothing. It was unintelligible. But, like, dear God, there were, like, long stretches where I'm just sitting there. Like, what am I supposed to say?
Well, but again, and I know, and again, I appreciate that you did go in with the level of good faith that you did, and that you really wanted to get at it because, the reality of where he's at, I think, came through that debate very strongly. He is, Anti-Oedipus and Deleuze, in Guattari too, they go deep into this idea of subject groups versus subjugated groups. They don't sort of talk about the normal left, right, or revolutionary perspective. Instead, everything to them kind of has a couple layers to it.
Yeah.
And a true revolutionary is someone who is actually invested in change and not simply seizing and controlling power. They're up for whatever the fuck comes next. And that they also, that's the second half, they have the passion for that. It's a sexualized libidinal energy for that. These things don't match up, though. It's how you end up with, huge swaths of people. Like, I used to use Trumpers as an example. And when we get to the chapter this next time around, where we're doing our third reading of AO, I'm going to use Haas because genuinely it is revolutionary energy par excellence. It's extraordinary, the amount of energy he's putting into it, the amount of time, but his actual investments are flat fascising.
Yeah.
And he's into that. That's his thing, and his audience. It's if you go back, and I'd like to compare us to Weimar. It's hard not to these days.
Weimar. God damn it, man! It's German.
I'm American, and I don't care.
You probably pronounce it Koran.
As far as I'm concerned, it's just another American state. Our borders go forever. Whatever it may be, the Nazis and the communists and socialists weren't friends ever, especially during the Weimar. They fought, but they weren't fighting over like we are now, where it's like battling on opposite sides. They want to kill a bunch of people. We want to save a bunch of people. It's opposing. They were fighting over hearts and minds. They were basically, it was kind of like what Haas is doing, where everyone really wanted change. And the young people were growing up and wanted change. And you had on one side the communists and on the other side the Nazis. And they were fighting over the same groups. And people migrated between them far more than they do nowadays. It wasn't a social sort of pariah moment for a person to go through that and to say like, we're going to go ahead and, kill everyone or whatever. I'm going to switch over to the Nazis. No, I'm going to switch back to the Bolsheviks. It was a lot more loose. And one of the reasons for that is because the revolutionary potential can be very much taken up by those who are fascising. And it's very attractive to be part of someone who is gathering power and consolidating power. And I just don't think there's another perfect example of it other than what mega communism is on its face. It's an attempt to synthesize what is seeming to be outsider potential. It is not. It is people who are deeply invested in this current structure and the current structures that are producing such things. But by utilizing and driving this idea of mega communism, it's able to pull from those who may be, I don't want to say split, but more open to such ideas, who just want change so desperately, but also are invested in such things. And it's a scary thing. It's a scary thing to watch. And I actually found the whole stream, as much as I know it was a field of nightmares, it's 100% worth going back through for me. And I did. I find it fascinating how people justify what they believe and how they talk and how they circulate their own logic that becomes deeply circular. Haas and I share one thing. We didn't go to college. We're not those people. And it's easy to have a chip on your shoulder when you're not that. When you're not an Ivy League person, even with a bachelor's degree. And it's easy to be jealous of that or to feel like those people don't listen to you. Because often they'll be very direct. You have a college degree? No.
Which by the way, chat, like, you really shouldn't be, because the only thing that ultimately, especially like when we're talking about things in the social sciences, where it's not like STEM, where there's like a rigorous set of technical skills you're developing, and like we know how like well spoken and like politically sophisticated tech pros are, as a general rule, 90% of what makes somebody competent to talk about these issues is the result of granted, like, they've had some help at some point to like gain some kind of judgment as to where to direct their energies. But it's 90% just, have they been diligent enough to go research stuff by themselves at the end of the day? The guidance helps. You have a lot of like received wisdom from it. But it's not enough by itself. And there's no rule that says like somebody who wasn't university trained can't outcompete somebody who was. You just have to really try. You have to be really humble, and you have to like be willing to take direction from people who know. But that's not something that people who go to university necessarily do. And that's not something that people who don't necessarily don't.
It's not, especially in the softer sciences or the humanities or something like philosophy or critical theory. I do give deference to people who've dedicated their lives. Like I have friends in the DGQC I run has an extraordinary number of postdoc, current doc, and people pursuing such things in very complex studies.
Hang on, I'm too quiet apparently. Why am I so quiet? What is going on here?
I don't know. Maybe you're just a subdued dude right now.
Maybe.
But like,
no, it wouldn't be from Discord.
Is it? I hope it's not me. I'm booming. So
I think it's the same person who's been complaining about being quiet throughout the whole stream. So it might just be them, maybe, possibly. But I'm louder now, so I am in the yellow.
Well, it's but back to my point. Like, yeah, I have respect for people who dedicate time to that.
Yeah.
And I once upon had this fantasy that if you went if you went to college, you got to deal with lots of different ideas. And every time I tell someone that, they laugh at me because of my weird idealism I had when I was younger. But the truth is, it's not a deep indicator, but there is a pressure on the outside when you start talking in these circles or having discussions that very quickly people just ask, so where did you study? And you're like, I didn't go. And then they just dismiss you. And it's happened to me. It's been extraordinary. It's like he's gotten that. So he's got this huge chip on his shoulder. And he gets pissy about all that.
No, he's been to university. He was a law school dropout.
Yeah, but he's not a graduate. He doesn't have the philosophy degree.
I don't know.
I mean, he brought that up multiple times.
That he doesn't have a degree. Because
like,
I know
a
for me,
college boy like you, and that's what he kept saying. But you're not the first person he said this with.
Sure, but I'm wondering if he was being like dishonest there, because like for me, I was considering going to law school at one point, and I would actually have to have my bachelor's in order to apply. That's not a thing I could just go into from go. At least.
Well, I think he presumed you had a doctorate, as we heard. So.
Yeah, that was flattering, but wrong.
It's flattering, but it's all up to this very specific sort of, I'm not lower class just because of whatever, don't talk down to me, chip on the shoulder. And it's part of that. And again, to talk about, people invested in structures, the people who care the most about such things are the people who are deeply invested in the structures at that level. Like a revolutionary type doesn't actually give a shit about those things. And it's not something they'll wave it off. It's, you don't hear I just think of the people who like really have that level, and they don't have such conversations, nor do they talk down to people in such a way. So it's a mental space that is flat fascising, and I think it's very telling how everything he did. He went back. My favorite was his definition of soft power, which was just the most circular, amazing thing that I didn't almost believe it happened as I was watching.
That was unreal. So also, soft power is like not a complicated topic. I don't even like the term, to be honest. I think it's misleading in its own right, but it's really basic to understand. It was weird that he had to like refer to soft power to explain soft power. That was odd.
Well, and again, it's also something I think if you're discussing hard power, which you were, you just say, well, soft power is all the other ways besides those things that power is exercised.
Yeah. Thank you,
That's
Rick,
it.
for the $1. Yeah.
So it was a lot of, and you gave him a lot of chances, and I think it's good because to me the ability to sort of watch how he reacted, how he talked, what he did, it was really, really fantastic. I thought to like see that mentality. It reminded me of talking with my father. I mean, that's how I'd say it. My dad believes things I don't, and he's not a stupid person, but he hasn't read, and he hasn't really been diligent, and he hasn't, gone not just primary sources, but like, all of the sources. So when, someone brings up Deleuze, and by the way, I wasn't the Deleuze friend who messaged Sunday. I won't call
no. But you were the one who put us in contact, though.
This is true, because that guy's also a friend of mine.
Yeah, and he's fantastic. I chatted.
But everyone was just kind of stunned by some of the wording in there, and it's not just around Deleuze, but these things are difficult, and they're going to be difficult, and that's the way it works. And these people, like the idea of Schmidt, not taking the time or thinking through kind of things that very clearly you can just sort of not have to build on for today's world.
Yeah.
It'd be like going back to like Huizinga and Homo Ludens and going, well, yes, but he didn't understand what video games would be, so I get to completely rewrite his entire theory of what play means. And it's like, no, it's the principles, and they think through all of the eventualities, and they think through all the categories. You don't get to just do that,
Yeah, well, what's also frustrating too is I was trying to offer him like, okay, what you're pointing to here isn't an analog of this, but here's something else, and you could absolutely make the case that there is the potential for a MAGA affiliated individual or group to actually like satisfy the label that he's trying to apply to them to like make his case, but you're not there yet, which is good because you don't want them to be there. But
no, what he's doing is I think the worst version of it, because he was clear if what he's doing. And I think there is actually an interesting project to be done in breaking down communism in such a way to shift the wording so that the meaning is the same. And we talk about how the working class shall be armed, how profits are basically, stolen from people, wage theft being the single largest form of theft in the United States. These things, these are easy ways to upset people and to talk about such things. But instead, it seems what he wants to do is bring people who are into communism to the right, and flatly is just lauding MAGA itself as a thing, when it's just a fascizing movement perfectly.
I don't even think he wants to bring communists to the right. I think what he wants to do is capitalize on this large untapped, well, not untapped, but this large market of people who hate people just like right-wingers do, but don't want to identify as right-wing out of pride. I don't think he's appealing to any left-wingers because, of course, he just disparages them out of hand, and he doesn't actually have reasonable conversations with anybody. A reasonable conversation with Hawes is one in which you just defer to him endlessly and just allow him to like stack all of the decks in his favor, so that now you're arguing with, well, you've agreed to all my premises, so you're just being unreasonable if you don't. I just can't convince you then. Like that's his strategy. It frustrated me too because I saw a lot of commentators who were like, why didn't you just accept his definitions and move on? Well, there are two reasons. First of all, like the argument hinged on definitions. It was a theoretical argument. You can't if you cede the definitions of terms or you treat them as if they're irrelevant, then you basically just have lost the entire conversation.
I can't tell you how angry I was when Vosh said it was. I didn't expect a lot from Vosh, but I'll tell you when he was like, well, can we just talk about the spirit of the conversation? Like, okay, dude, that's not how this works. Can we just go on and try to get at what we're trying to get at? And it's like, no, that's what we're trying to get at is the problem. It was very frustrating to hear that sort of breakdown from him.
At the same time, though, like, I get it at one level. Like, not to run defense for Vosh. Like, it frustrates me that he doesn't take this stuff seriously. But at the same time, like, to an audience that is disinterested, when you're dealing with somebody like Hawes who hasn't managed to, like, get wide uptakes, he really hasn't. Like, he's nothing. He's barely double my size, which is not big.
Especially given the drama he's been a part of.
Yeah, but I think the problem though is he's overplayed his hand, because now people know he doesn't take it seriously, and it was one thing when it's like, oh, this guy's crazy, but he's interesting. Now it's this guy's dishonest and he's crazy, which means there's literally no value in talking to him. What people were baffled by is like, why are you pretending like there's actually a reasonable conversation to be had here? Which I wasn't. I was treating it. I was taking it seriously as if these were like serious propositions. Because otherwise, literally all it would be is just a shouting match where I call him like a stupid liar or whatever, and I'd probably be right. But you wouldn't actually.
But the audience mattered, and it's for the audience that these distinctions are deeply important.
And that years of my life have been shaved off. Correct? Yeah.
I don't think so. I think actually, if anything, it's good practice, because the reality is anytime you can take someone like that in good faith for that long and be kind about it and talk through it and not talk down to them, I think it's very good practice for when we actually find people that want to engage in good faith, who don't understand things, but are also sensitive and able to be turned by the same sort of chip on the shoulder or being talked down to. I think it's positive. It's difficult, but it's a skill that's worth having.
Thank you, Velvet Magneto, for the $20. Thank you so much. I learned so much from your clear educational style. I never really knew what a partisan was, except recently in the context of Ukraine. I actually had to reread that essay in preparation for this, which is one of the reasons why I was mad that there was no uptake whatsoever on that point, because I literally went through the entire goddamn essay and all the notes and everything. It was exhausting. I appreciate that. I think also, like, with respect to this one, it kind of helped me a little bit because it was not like this was refreshing in that it wasn't like another Pisco debate, and it was like a bullshit artist, like really, but it was on something somewhat interesting at least. And I one of the reasons why I hate talking to people in the Destiny orbit, it's not because I disagree with them, it's because I feel like I'm not talking to people. Like there's an it's like
they're performative.
Well, it's not just performative, right? Performative is one thing. Like the guy I was talking to earlier is performative in his own right. He's like a red pill guru guy.
Oh no!
But it's like it's performative to the service of defending the honor of like a collective circle of grifters, and I just don't fucking care. Like the kind of people who fall for that are not the kind of people who actually care about any of the stuff they're talking about. It's literally just it's literally just a pornographic. Let's imagine I'm this this super cynical, abrasive guy just beating down people who resemble people who have annoyed me in my day-to-day life, which is really what it amounts to. Like people really want, like, oh, I've run into a bunch of obnoxious, toxic trans people in Discord servers. I really wish somebody with a showman personality would just wreck one of these people in front of me. That's literally it, and they don't care if, as a result of that, like a true understanding of a thing is arrived at. They don't care if, like, somebody who's actually fairly innocent of that kind of thing, or if anything, is being like publicly abused and pilloried, and whatever like psychological damage accrues to them as a result. It's just gross. Like the whole thing's just cancerous, and not like in the sense of like an ideological disagreement, but just like it's not actually positive to anybody, at least of all to them. It's just, and my emotional response to that, I don't get angry at the disagreement or being frustrated because they're being out argued. I that happens to me all the time. What I get angry at is not even angry. I just feel like just visceral disgust, and that's what makes me kind of like flip my lid when I get angry in conversations. It's not because like the conversation is intractable. It's because like the thing my opponent is engaging in, I find to be absolutely revolting. And at the very least, like, I don't know if that's not the case with Haas, but at the very least it was so impotent and isolated that I didn't have that in the back of my mind throughout it.
See, I
mean,
don't,
running circles around kind of helped too, but
well, that probably wouldn't hurt. But again, and a lot of people say grifter or bullshit artist. To me, again, I don't see that in him. I think he's far too consistently wrong in the way that the reason he couldn't understand partisan is because to him, rebelling against a system and thinking about, and I'm probably oversimplifying. Feel free to correct me. Someone who's a partisan actually is actively trying to undo the system.
Yeah.
And fighting the system. He can't even imagine that because he's so deeply invested in the system as it is.
Yeah.
That to him, all violence, generally speaking, is going to be evil, even if it is ultimately in keeping the system. An example, probably Oklahoma City, as an example. That was literally someone fighting, trying to maintain the system through hyper-violence. It'd be an interesting discussion to have if that was partisan violence. 9/11 certainly was partisan violence. So, like, when you're talking about the system, though, and investment in it, everything for him, he's in it so deep. It's not about subjugation or destroying the system. He doesn't see communism as that. I'd be actually really interested to see what communism even is in his, mind of these things. But ultimately, I would presume that it just has to do with who's in power. And that's the issue. A partisan in his world is someone who's just wanting to seize power and take control. But that's not how partisan works.
No.
Necessarily. So, and that is just something that literally the brain can't accept if they're not able to be invested that direction. Like it's
yeah.
You're talking about the very image of thought itself at this point, and someone who doesn't have that can't see it.
Well, that's one, yeah. Well, that's one of the things I even pointed out as well. It's like, for you to call this a partisan, like what wouldn't be at this point? We're talking about pundits and voters. Those are historically ubiquitous as long as you have like mass democratic politics. This does not distinguish Donald Trump or the MAGA movement at all. They're only distinguished by policy and stupidity.
Well, and again, the idea that Trumpism and that MAGA is anything but absolutely just simply for the wealthy in every single capacity, I find extraordinary.
No, it's self-abasement motivated purely just by spite towards other Americans.
But again, with Haas, how he sees it is very much his entire world is focused around this thing being right. And so when you brought up, oh, Trump did X, and he's like, oh, he was forced to. That wasn't true Trump.
Yeah.
And as soon as you start having that, you can see the image of thought that he's stuck with, and it makes it very difficult.
Yeah.
Usually you don't get to see someone's image of thought sort of become naked in front of you. And I found, even though it was long and I know you suffered greatly for it, I found it very much a really interesting experience for that.
Careful.
I'm still convinced that that Vosh was punishing me for the Professor Flower Sippy by letting that go on as long as it did. Or he was stoned, either or. I don't like I understood why I was there. I was there because I had to see it through to the end. I think Hawes
can't stop.
Hawes can't stop. Same deal probably actually. Why was Vosh in that for 4 hours?
Why did Vosh agree to it is, I think, a better question.
That's an excellent question. I don't know.
Because, I mean...
I think he was just being friendly. I asked him politely. It's like, oh, sure, I'm going on a trip, though. So I was like, fine. And I wanted him to do it, first of all, because he would at the very least be impartial. Like, he's good at that. And...
Oh, no. See, no. Vosh has, it's the thing Joe Rogan does, where everyone's like, oh, Joe Rogan's right-wing because he has like right-wing people on all the time. No, it's because this is stuff that Joe doesn't understand or get, but he does get the other stuff, so he doesn't have those people on. So for Vosh, he's much in the same way. He would much easier and much rather not have you talk and instead have Haj explain something that he doesn't understand. And that happened a few times where he just flatly was like, no, it's more interesting to hear from Haz than Sunday because I kind of know where Sunday's going and that's not interesting to me.
Yeah, fair enough. But at the same time, like, that works in my favor. First of all, because Haz is not going to get uptake. And secondly, like, it offsets the perception that there is a bias towards me. Like, obviously, he made notes about how, like, obviously I agree. I'm not on Haz's side on anything. But, like, what I didn't have, and what I would be worried about with, like, a bunch of other people, is, like, constant interjections arguing on one side against the other one. And that didn't really happen.
Oh, well, I mean, again, Haz, from what I've been able to see, he's very happy to sort of chat through these things, even though when he gets cornered, his answer is, I sent you the Sartre quote, which I think always works for pretty much anyone on the right. But as soon as you got to the point where he had nowhere else to go, he would just say, well, the time for discussions passed. Like every time. And it was like, we know the game. That's not new. That's not interesting. We've been around the block on that one a few times. And it's really, I think the other sad thing is how many people watch that and think he just like dismantled you or say such a thing. And it's either that they are so confused on sort of what was happening that they really just go straight for the strongman thing. No offense. That's, how you stand up against Hogs in that one. He is the muscle man who tears his shirts off in debates. You ain't done that yet. Someday we'll get you working out. We'll get you some steroids. But like that idea, that thing is attractive to people in the same way. It's we're supposed to be discussing anti-Oedipus. That's the line that they have. Let me see if I can get it exactly. The bureaucrat. Let me see if I can find it. The truth is, sexuality is everywhere. The way a bureaucrat fondles his records, a judge administers justice, a businessman causes money to circulate, the way of the bourgeois fucks the proletariat, and so on. There's no need to resort to metaphors any more than for the libido to go by the way of metamorphoses. Hitler got the fascists sexually aroused. Flags, nations, armies, banks get a lot of people aroused. A revolutionary machine is nothing if it does not acquire at least as much force as these coercive machines have for producing and mobilizing flows. It's not through desexualizing extension that the libido invests in those aggregates. On the contrary, it's through a restriction, a blockage, and a reduction that the libido is made to repress its flows, to contain them, create couples, families, purses, objects, fascism. And that's, I think, again, very rarely do you get to see something sort of so perfectly on display. We've been discussing it, the other guys on the Duluth server, we really fell in love with talking about this, because usually you don't get examples of this shit as cleanly as we've been getting lately, but this one, it's pretty hardcore.
That was bad.
Yep.
Do I have anything else? I don't think I have any debates coming up.
Probably for the best.
Oh God, that's so liberating. Like the last ones were just. I've. It's sad that the Haas one was the one I was looking forward to. It's like, oh, this is actually interesting stuff, and it was disappointing that there was like, it wasn't even like his responses were crazy. He was actually really subdued in that conversation, but it was just so incoherent. There was nothing to talk about.
See, I don't think it was incoherent. I think it was circular reasoning and poor logic, but I think it was coherent, again, for what he believed. I don't see him as a grifter, even after all of that. I think he genuinely believes what he's saying and he's into it, and I think there is a lot to learn from that.
I think it's both. Lot. I think it's both. I think he knows he compromises for the monetary benefit, like he has to, and I think he also thinks that there's like a real core to him that's actually trying to do something. I don't know what the ratio is, but like,
is he making money? Like,
well, but he might be like he might be in my position. Like he's got double my subscribers. He probably has about, I want to say maybe on a good day 4 or 5 times the viewership. Like that adds up. That keeps him out of having to work a day job, right? Like if he's pulling in like $4,000 or $5,000 a month, maybe 4,000, maybe a lot less. I don't know. Even if he's making $2,000 a month for a single guy in his 20s, that's pretty good. Where all he has to do is just talk about stuff he's interested in the way he wants to with no oversight. That's a dream job.
What's that?
I like what I do, and there's no way in hell I make as much as him.
Large numbers of humans resided in such concrete and metal
yeah,
structures.
probably fair.
Structures were referred to by names such as apartment complex.
I wonder why they insisted on living in such large groups. Things must have been really dangerous around here.
Yeah.
Huh?
I don't. I think the Pisco conversation was less painful. But it also had like there was just no value in it at all. Like there was the subject wasn't interesting. The conversation was just kind of. It was just deflecting. On both sides. I don't know.
How'd this last one go?
Today?
Yeah.
That was
I missed it. I was out and about doing shit.
It was
having a life.
It was boring. It was just some dumb red pill douchebag. He was.
That's the best.
Yeah, but it was boring though. Like we weren't like arguing about like something to do with that had actually some kind of motivating force behind it. He only wanted to talk because I called him a discount Andrew Tate when he said nobody cares underneath my area video.
Yeah, it's a funny
And
one.
he was so just butthurt about that in particular, and I was just sitting here just I do not care. Do you want to talk about like, hey, do you like any like movies or books or anything? Do you have any like talk about like anything political? And all he wanted to do was either talk about trans women in sports or my sex life.
Oh, good God.
Yeah. So it was weird. It was really weird. He was like, "What's your body count?" I'm not telling you what my body count is.
What the fuck?
Yeah. I asked him. Oh, he did actually answer. Like, what books do you like? And he mentioned a bunch of self-help books for like.
Oh God.
It was just
rugged individualism. The end of us all.
It was depressing. Ambrose just messaged me afterwards, and he was like, it's a weird thing when like the screaming crazy person at the end is the reprieve. Just bad.
Yeah.
I don't think the guy himself, like, I don't want to say he's not that bad either, because I don't know him, and from what I've heard of him, like he's
terrible.
Got positions that are terrible. In terms of how he comports himself, I don't think he was. You can talk to him is what I would say, which is like a really low bar. But like it wasn't like Pisco or Hawes where it becomes actually communication actually dies right at the gate. Which to his credit for Pisco, there was a brief period. There's a brief period where it dialed down just enough, where there was some kind of back and forth happening. But it's just like I don't like spending my time on that. It's just exhausting. I get nothing out of it. It's
hey,
just,
man.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. That's why I recommend soldering. You get to have something at the end of it. Happy days.
That was a Steam Deck with the thumbsticks.
Actually, I will tell you, it's easily the best mod I've ever done.
Yeah.
So Steam Decks, if people don't know, they come with what I would say is like the shittiest version of thumbsticks. I mean, at least the earlier versions did. They're the same as they have on the Switch. They're extremely prone to drift because they don't center properly. They're not analog, whole bunch of stuff.
I thought they were like touchpads, like touch circles.
It has joysticks above the touchpads.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well,
and they're this replacement, but it's the other side. The fan that came with mine, and I think it was most of the first run of the Steam Decks, was clicky. You'd be able to hear it, and it would be a little louder than you want. And so while I was in there, I replaced the fan too, and it was fantastic. So it's pretty good overall.
They're advertising that the Dead Space remake can run on it. How's that? We tried it?
The what?
The Dead Space remake on the Steam Deck.
I have not played it. I've been playing it on my PS5.
Oh. That was a good remake. That was solid. I like how they you've beaten it by now, right?
Nope.
Really?
I have a child, so
Fair
I
enough.
don't get to necessarily play it all the time because it's not going to be his favorite thing to watch, I think would be the way to put it.
You gotta start him young to give him some grit.
Maybe.
Have you beaten the Leviathan though, right?
Leviathan. No, dude, I played.
Oh, you're barely into it. Oh,
yeah, like 4 hours maybe.
okay.
Tops.
So they patched some stuff that didn't make sense lore wise.
I have a 5 and a 1-year-old.
That's fair.
It's on the TV in the living room.
Oh, that's
so
yeah. Gotcha.
That's where my PS5. It's the way it goes. And it's so it's after they go to sleep, or one time I was playing. My son came down and I'm like, oh, and he's like, what were you playing? I was like, oh, it's a scary game Daddy likes. I love scary games, and he got really upset that I wouldn't play it for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then so like you want to talk about a rock in a hard place? So played it, and he was more upset. So that's the way it goes.
Yeah, they've updated it in like some subtle ways that I really appreciated. This isn't really a spoiler because it's they've just corrected something, but it'll be cool when you see it. Do you mind if I like?
Please.
Okay, so you played the original, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you remember like there was a weird thing where it's like there's a giant necromorph on the outside of the ship. It's the slug you shoot with cannons. Like where the hell did that come from? So they've altered the boss fight with Leviathan, where you don't kill it anymore. It doesn't just like drift inside of like the food storage. You actually evacuate it from food storage, and then the slug is actually replaced by the Leviathan, which is latched onto the outside of the ship. And you have a similar fight with it. Like you do use the autocannons on it, but you actually have to like fly around in 0G and direct them manually, and it's actually like a really involved and really like creative boss fight, and it's a lot more like interesting and gross looking. They've done a lot of little things like that. Like it is very much still like Dead Space 1, but it's Dead Space 1 just so much better at every level, and they've added like more detail, like in terms of like references to the outside world. You get a lot more of like backstory involving.
Oh no, I told you already. The first 4 hours already were significant improvement.
Oh yeah. Oh, but the last 5 hours too are
good to hear.
Also really good. It's just an improvement across the board.
Very good to hear.
Yeah, I'm excited for if they do Dead Space 2. I kind of want them to just skip Dead Space 2 because Dead Space 2 still works. I kind of want them to just do to just redo Dead Space 3.
Remove all the microtransactions.
Remove the microtransactions. Fix the lore. Because like a bunch of stuff bugged me about them that weren't just gameplay focused. So, sorry, that bugged me about that one that weren't just gameplay focused. The game opens up with a marker being unleashed on the Earth's moon, on a moon colony. And the necromorph infection happens immediately. Like your character gets knocked out, he wakes up, and there's a zombie just pounding on the glass window in the adjacent room. That's something else too. Like the standard necromorph in Dead Space 3 isn't a necromorph per se. It's like a zombie that carries 2 pickaxes and sort of vaguely resembles like a necromorph slasher. Which would be fine if it was like, oh, here's like one early infected guy who happens to have like an eerie resemblance to like an advanced slasher form. But that's like a uniform like type of enemy going forward. With the result that like you have a situation where the necromorphs have uniform equipment, like actually like tools, which is just stupid. I didn't like
I only played the first, and it was great, and I didn't need more of it.
The second is worth it. The second one actually has like it doesn't.
Okay. There's too many games. There's too many games.
That's fair. The second one doesn't focus on the necromorphs so much. It's more focused on like the civilization itself, I guess, which is fun. I said the word. Yeah, but it's good. I think it suffers a little bit from the lack of enemy variety because it only has it's got a few like sprinter types and one boss type. But the setting's interesting. It's sort of a return to the System Shock 2 type palette. Anyways, I don't know about you, but I'm wiped. Let's do. Are you still your game for Anti-Oedipus tomorrow night?
Yeah, I mean, we can move into the BWO, or we can sort of do a handful of things before we get to that, given the complexity of the topic.
How about I'll leave it to your discretion. You're the expert. I'll let you.
Heading straight to the BWO is just, it's tough. I mean, a lot of people get a ton around that wrong, to say the least. So, but we can do it. If it's not going to be interactive, if you're going to be like Mr. Passive, then yeah, I'd rather move on to holding its parts and then come back to it.
No. Like today I would be, because I've had basically 0 sleep. I'm actually sick right now, and I just came off of six hours of the worst debates I've ever had in my life.
Fair enough.
The last one, disturbingly, actually wasn't that bad. But the Haas one was, dear God, I feel like 10 years older after that thing. But no, I'll give me a reading and I'll have that ready for tomorrow. I'm gonna take a couple of days off regular streaming just to recover. And then we'll be back on Tuesday, and I think I'm just gonna work on essays for a little bit. Because I have a bunch that I've been working on in the background, which is why I'm so tired, because I'm not resting at all.
We need to set up a barotrauma stream, which is mindless fun. Grab a few people. Super Blast. Barotrauma is moving into version 1.0. Tons of stuff in it. It's been going for a few years. Super stable. One of the most fun multiplayer experiences that's out there, man.
Well,
as long as everyone's generally a good sport, because it gets pretty hilariously awful.
Yeah, well, let's do that then. We can even like test it out briefly tomorrow night if you're game.
I'm easy.
Okay. Well, we'll see how we're feeling after Anti-Oedipus. But
Anti-Oedipus recharges me, so we'll see how you're feeling after Anti-Oedipus.
Okay. Good point. Well, thank you again, Brooks. Always a pleasure.
Oh yeah.
Thanks everybody for watching, and take care. Ciao. Oh, and if you like what I do, Patreon stuff.
Like and subscribe.
Exactly. All right. Arrivederci. Have a good night, Brooks. Take care.
See you.